It is Sunday the 1st of March 2020 and here we are once again for another 3 nights of debate for Surrey Decides. Hard to believe that it's been a whole year since we were here last, seems like only 12 months. Now, over the course of the next 3 nights there are going to be literally tens of students taking the stage who are going to be answering lots of questions from you, from the chairs, from online. If you're a first-year student and you've never seen it before, don't worry, we'll explain everything. You may be a second-year student who wasn't paying attention last year. If you're a final-year student, you really have no excuse. Tonight we have Support Zone, we have Community Zone, we have RAG Chair and 2 VP positions of Support and Community. In between the debates, I'll be joined by a number of university luminaries who will give a little bit of colour into university life and explain some things that perhaps you don't know. While the rest of the country is losing their mind over a virus, the only thing going viral here is a rather embarrassing video on Twitter about entrance to an exam hall or a lecture theatre. Lots of things will come up. If you're on Facebook, leave a comment on there. We're not using Twitter this year. Twitter is old hat. We've moved on to Facebook. It's the new thing. So please leave a message. We have a team of disinterested volunteers who will put your message on the screen, disrupting the debate, hopefully just at the right time. So get online, or even better, come upstairs to Rubix, sit and listen to the debate, chip in, cheer, clap, applaud and encourage, because these students are all putting themselves forward to make your union and your university a better place. But right now, it's time to go upstairs to Rubix for the first of tonight's debates. It's part 1 of the Support Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Surrey Decides Question Time 2020. Please welcome to the stage your Union President, Gemma Payne.
Hello! Oh, I still get really nervous when that comes on. Whew. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to Surrey Decides 2020. Who's excited? Fantastic. I've had to bring my phone because I'm so blind I can't actually read the tablet standing up, so bear with. But it is amazing to see so many people getting involved in Surrey Decides. It's a fantastic way of influencing the Students' Union. Whether you're running, campaigning, or just getting involved in the voting process, thank you guys so much for getting involved. It is fantastic to see. Before we get started, I do want to do a few thank yous. So thank you to all of the chairs that have volunteered their time. You're all amazing. A little round of applause for them. Thank you to Stag TV and all of the medias. Thank you guys. Woo! Thank you to Alan and the pundits in Pundits Corner over the next 3 nights. Woo! Thank you to Stage Crew. And thank you to the Voice Zone, who without any of this, nothing would be possible. So thank you. Now, you might have already noticed there's a slight change to the Twitter wall. It's a Facebook wall. And if you'd like to get involved, you comment on the live stream itself. So just have to put a comment on the live stream and it will appear up on the wall. Very good. And just as a final notice, as you'll all know, everyone here has volunteered their time to come up here, and it is super scary, and I can tell you from experience. So please be nice and give all of your love to absolutely everyone who comes up on the stage today. And to all of you who are coming up here, good luck. I'm sure you'll smash it. Thank you guys so much, and let's start Surrey Decides Question Time, Night 1.
Chairing the debate for Support Zone, please welcome Cameron Qureshi.
Good evening. We all excited to get started? Good stuff. All right, so we're here tonight starting off with the support zone. Sorry. Just before we get into that, it will be split into two halves with 4 candidates in each half. Before we get into that, I just have a quick opening statement to make for the candidates as well as you guys so you're more aware of the voting process. Usually when a candidate is elected into their role, they start their role in July, but due to a resignation from the current support zone, the candidate with the most votes this year will be asked to join that zone and continue in that role until July, and then start with the new committee in July as well. If this candidate does not want to make that start, they can pass that on. That will not affect their role, and that will go to the next candidate who's got the next amount of votes. If no one decides to accept it, the role will remain empty, but I'm assuming someone will accept that role, so yeah. Also, we have one of our candidates for the support zone, Beth Burns, not able to make it this evening and not able to Skype into the event, so she's prepared a quick 3-minute video to discuss her manifesto, which I think we'll put on now, hopefully. Yes.
Hi, I'm Beth. I'm running to be on the support zone. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there tonight, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself, my manifesto. So I study psychology, and I'm currently in my placement year. And the main reason I'm running is because I believe that university can be such a stressful time, and that people's mental health can deteriorate a lot through these years. And the union this year, I think, has done some really great things with the support systems they've introduced, such as Nightline and the Student Minds peer support scheme, and I want to help in developing more schemes that will help people's mental health. So on my manifesto, I've highlighted 3 of the main issues that I think can have a negative impact on students' university experiences. And so these are mental health awareness, loneliness, and a lack of support for people with disabilities and invisible illnesses. For the last year, as president of PsychSoc, I've tried to raise awareness about mental health and the services that are available to support people, such as the Big White Wall, Safe Haven, and Nightline. However, I think there needs to be more information given generally about these services, so if I was to be posted onto the support zone, I would try and get these services more widely advertised in lectures, as I think that's one of the easiest ways to get information disseminated. I would also like to introduce Mental Health Mates, a scheme that's being rolled out across the UK generally at the moment, where people go on walks around their local area and just talk about their problems or anything that's going on in their lives. And I think that having people who are trained to listen by the Centre for Wellbeing would be great as part of this. And it's also linked to bettering physical wellbeing. The Mental Health Mates leads quite nicely onto the second main area of my manifesto, which is combating loneliness. I think when you come to university, there's a lot of pressure to be having the best time of your life and constantly out with people, and that's just not the reality for a lot of people. And loneliness is a huge issue on our campus generally. To attempt to reduce this, I would encourage societies to introduce the buddy system, focusing a lot on the departmental societies. So people have someone to go to events with or just talk to about their fears or things they're struggling with. And I would like to introduce the chatty cafe idea on campus, which you may have seen in Costa's or independent coffee shops around the UK. And so the general idea is just that if you're sitting at that table, you're happy to chat to someone, and it doesn't need to be a friend for life or anything. It's just about lessening social isolation. And the final point on my manifesto is about disabilities and invisible illnesses. I think there's not enough general awareness about these issues, so I'd like to introduce spotlight campaigns. So what I mean by that is that, like, the end of March, there's Autism Awareness Week. And so having like a Instagram post and Facebook post and video every day with just general facts and information handed out in the library, and gradually raising awareness like that. And I would like to have online support groups, people with different illnesses or disabilities, so they have people to talk to. If you have any questions, please feel free to message me, but vote Beth for support. Thank you.
Great. Oh, hello. I don't have a working mic. Nothing. Okay, well, I'll try and be loud until the mic comes back on. Just quickly, before we introduce the first set of candidates for the support zone, I just want to remind everyone it is really nerve-wracking being up here. I'm nervous being up here, and I'm not even important to the process, so it must be super nerve-wracking for the candidates. So just be kind, considerate, and respectful with any comments you make, anything that goes on the Facebook wall. And yeah, this is your time to figure out who you want to vote for, so make sure you're paying attention to everything they're saying. That being said, I'd like to invite the candidates for the first round of debates for the support zone to the stage, please. Welcome, welcome. All right, so candidates were asked to prepare a 45-second response to a question they were given about a week ago. Just as a warning, if you are still talking at 45 seconds, I will stop you and move you on to the next candidate. The question they were asked to prepare for was introduce yourself and why you're running and how you plan to balance your time as a part-time officer next year. So we'll start with on my far left and we'll work my way to my right. So whenever you're ready, get straight into it.
Hi, I'm a second-year law and criminology student. My name's Julia Rusek, and well, the reason I'm running for the support zone is pretty much because I've been involved with like Welfare Watch, and I've been an inclusion and welfare champion for the judo club, and I can manage my time quite efficiently. I was VP of the judo club this year, and along with my studies, I was able to balance everything quite efficiently and managed to still get average grades, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, Beth, if you'd like to go.
Hi, my name's Beth. I'm a second year sport and exercise science student. I would say I'd be really good at managing my time. I'm actually on a committee at the moment, one of the sporting committees, and I've been able to manage that as well as doing my work efficiently as possible. My main reason for wanting to be on the committee this year is because I want to help as many people as possible and make people's lives at uni a lot better, because I know that it can be very stressful.
Okay, thank you. And Hussein?
Hey guys, my name is Hussein Al-Khawaja, and I'm running for this position because I think there's much to do in the support zone for the student union in terms of mental health issues or academic support, even financial support. So vote Hussein.
Great. And Ellie?
Hi, I'm Ellie. I study maths and stats, and I'm currently the president of AltiSoc, and I'm on the LGBT committee as well. I'm running because I'm passionate about helping people with disabilities, and I'm passionate about helping people with mental health issues and things like that. And I can manage my time efficiently because I'm already on 2 committees. I think I'm doing a pretty good job at that already. And yeah, I think I can manage this as well. That's it, really.
Fantastic. All right, we're going to get into some manifesto questions now, and we are actually going to start with you, Ellie. So, you've mentioned in your manifesto about trying to reduce the waiting time for the Centre for Wellbeing by increasing staff. Currently, the Centre for Wellbeing is actually recruiting new staff. So what other methods would you have to reduce the waiting time?
Well, I guess more staff is one thing, but I think maybe looking at how they're running it and seeing if they can do things more efficiently, because, you know, everything can be more efficient in a lot of ways. So that's, I guess, how, like, one way I would do it. Another way, I'm not really sure, but I think more staff, making things more efficient, making things go more smoothly, that kind of thing.
Okay, great. All right, and on to Julia. Several of your manifesto points involve building on existing work or projects, such as Welfare Watch. So how do you plan on bringing something new to the support zone in your time?
So I pretty much want to make collaborations with other zones. For example, I know that obviously this is already in place. Sorry. From activity zone and support zone, there's inclusion and welfare champions already in place. But I also want to make the STARS criteria more accessible to more support zone collaborations. For example, the Welfare Watch, it's a very good volunteering service, which I think is absolutely amazing. And if more clubs and societies got involved in it, and that it would just bring a better community of, like, a safer community around campus and the whole university.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And on to you, Hussein. You've mentioned in your manifesto that you plan on having sexual harassment workshops. I was just hoping you could clarify for us who it is you actually want to be attending these workshops, how you plan on getting them to attend.
Well, thank you for the question. That's a very interesting question. Well, sexual harassment is an issue for like every university, and I know a lot of people suffer from it because I've had friends who've talked about it, whether they're male or female. So I want literally everyone from the university to like come and just like have an awareness, because sometimes even like when you have a friend who's like going through this and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do now? Because that's what I thought when my friend went through it, and I was like, do I go to the student union? Do I go to the security? Do I talk to the police? Who do I talk to? So I think people need to know what the resources are for people who are going through that stressful time. Not even stressful, just like, it's like it affects your mental health as well, because like my friend didn't even leave her room for like a week, and like we didn't even know who to go to, so we had to like deal with it for ourselves. So I think like we're gonna, like if I do get elected, I will work closely with like all the students and like have them to like come together and talk about it.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, and Beth, sorry, you've mentioned in your manifesto you want to provide a safe way for students to get home that have been refused entry or removed from Rubix. Can you clarify how this scheme will work and how it differs from the current Welfare Watch scheme, please?
So I feel like a lot of people that are refused entry and things, I've seen, I know personally a few of my friends, they just end up wandering home because they don't know who to go to and things. So either kind of raise awareness of the Welfare Watch and how to get into that and like let them know that there is a way for them to get home, or even security, because I know that you can ring up security, give them lists, but actually make it more well known that they're able to do that, or even the bouncers have a way of maybe contacting someone to make sure that they get home safe. Because they're people that end up being refused entry, they're refused entry for a reason, and actually they are more vulnerable than the people that have been allowed in, so there should be a safe way for them to be able to get home without any incidents occurring. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, that's all the individual manifesto questions out of the way. So now I'm just going to ask you all one general question, and we'll work from my right to my left. The question is, which of your manifesto points do you think will impact student life the most, and why? So if you'd like to start, Ellie.
I think maybe the visual guides, surprisingly, because I think it's really important that people are aware of what Surrey has to offer. And I think that with these guides installed in accommodation, that people will make more use of them and be able to contact the correct people. So I think if we have that in place, then it could decrease, things, and it would increase the amount of people that are using these facilities.
Okay, brilliant. And Hussein?
Probably might add a feature on my Surrey app that tracks your mood and like how you're feeling like day to day, because I know that would help me personally and help like a lot of students, because a lot of these apps you can find on like the App Store, but obviously you have to like, they're like in-app purchases, like, oh, if you want to see what's happening in Guildford, pay £5. But like the student union should be able to be like, oh, okay, it's fine to not be okay. There are certain activities in campus that's happening, like we can collaborate with ZenSoc or the Equestrian Soc, like just to be like, hey, there's like free horse riding lessons if you want to, like pet soc as well, like I'm gonna work closely with as well. So because like obviously there's research that's been happening as well that like animals are like very good when it comes to like therapy and stuff like that. And even just like activities in town, like, oh, go to Guildford Castle, because I know a lot of people who have been in this uni for quite a long time, they don't know what's happening in the uni and in town. So there's quite a lot of like places that you can go to just like alone time, or if you want to go with like a bunch of friends and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay. And Beth.
Sorry, what was the question?
So the question was, which of your manifesto points do you think will impact student life the most, and why?
Okay, so I actually think, so on my manifesto I said I want to work more closely with Activity Zone to kind of let people know what sporting opportunities and exercise opportunities there are, because it has actually been proven that exercise increases mental health and improves mental health. And I think that not many people are aware of this, and it would be good to get people out and about, involved in more sporting opportunities, just to bring people together, allow people to socialise, make more friends, make those bonds, which can then also help in future with mental health. and yeah, just bring people together. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Julia.
So the point I think will influence the student body the most is the international students. So I'm personally foreign. I'm half Polish, half Russian, and I just didn't think there was. I've technically lived here since I was 7, but I know a lot of my friends from who haven't just came here to study, who saw that there wasn't enough help for them when they first arrived in England. They didn't know how things worked very well, and I feel like inviting EU students to the international students information fair as well would be really helpful to let them know what's going on around how the country works, how the campus operates, how it's different to, for example, university in Poland or Germany or France. And I just think that would be really good to integrate everyone into the community more.
Great. All right, so for the last thing for this debate, we'll chuck to the floor for a question. So if anyone has any questions, if you want to chuck your hands up now, I'll try and find someone. Anyone? I see a hand over there. Can we get a mic over there, please?
Is it okay? Okay, so this is a question for both international students and local students that don't really feel like they can fit into university very well. What support strategies will be on offer for both ethnic minorities within the university and the international students?
Okay, so we'll start from my far left and we'll work my way to my right.
So could you repeat the question, please?
So the question is, what support strategies will be on offer for both international students and ethnic minority students at this university?
So obviously one of my manifesto points is specifically for international students from the EU, but obviously I think that every single ethnic minority, everyone should have the same opportunities. That's why I think that if someone comes from a different culture, there should still be an access to an invitation to for an international students information fair, or just a student mentor going around and being hey, if you there's this thing around, you can always come along. It doesn't matter if you're English or not English, you can still come to this. Everyone's welcome, just to get to know everything, how it works, and little get-togethers kind of, so everyone gets to know each other, and even if you don't know a lot of people at the university.
Can you round off your answer, please? Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, sorry. You can basically get to know people that way.
Okay, so for me, going back to the sport and exercise point, I think it would be good to get more people involved. So that be international and non-international students, so then they mix more and then can form bonds through that. Also, like Julia was saying here, with the student mentors, have them go around and just explain to them that there is opportunities for meetups, there is ways that they can go and bond with other people, make relationships. They don't have to feel left out. Every society in this university, I'm pretty sure, is open to accepting everyone and anyone, and if they're not, then that needs to be changed. But yeah, everyone's welcome here, and I think that should be kind of shown everywhere.
And Hussein?
Well, as an Arab British myself, I feel like there's underrepresentation when it comes to support for ethnic minorities, because having friends that come from different cultures, it's when you look at the student union and everyone there, it's just you don't see yourself there. So if we have one of my manifesto points is to work with activities and to battle loneliness when it comes to with international students and people come from abroad, because even just a leaflet that has your language there, it's oh, they've thought about that for me. I speak Arabic, or I speak Hindi, or I speak that language, and it's oh, they took that time and effort to make me feel like home. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay. And Ellie.
Well, one of my manifesto points is about inclusion and to make sure that everyone feels included in whatever they do at Surrey. So that's something that I really want to push, no matter who you are, including ethnic minorities. I want to make sure that everyone, in whatever they take part in, feels included, feels like they belong somewhere. And yeah, I'm going to keep pushing that, no matter who they are. Ethnic minorities is definitely something I want to tackle as well. So yeah, and I want to make sure that they all feel supported as well and that they feel safe here at Surrey.
Brilliant. Okay, well that kind of brings an end to this first half of the Support Zone debates. I want to remind everyone about Bethany Byrne's video at the start, and all manifestos are available online if you want to have a look at them. We will be returning in a few minutes for the next half of this debate. For now, I'm going to head you over to the man, the myth, the legend, and the CEO of your Students' Union, Alan Sutherland, in the front room. Thank you.
So this isn't actually the end of that debate, it's just that we have a large number of candidates running for the support zone. So we're not really going to discuss what they said yet, because this is just a very quick changeover. But I said at the start that I'd be joined with a number of wise elders, and I'll just let everybody introduce themselves. Sarah, apologies for calling you a wise elder. You are indeed a BNOC. Please, everybody will know who you are, but for those who don't, what do you do?
So my name is Sarah. I'm the current Vice President Support here at the Students' Union.
And you were doing this time last year?
Yes, so I've done this twice. So I ran for part-time officer 2 years ago, and I ran for VP obviously last year. So it's quite nice to see it from the other side, and there's not as much stress to it. I quite enjoy it. So yeah.
Mark, you are the Campus Home Secretary. Please explain to the viewer at large what your role is here on campus.
Thank you, Alan. My name is Mark Chatterton. I'm Head of Security for the university, and I also look after the receptions across the campus. Latterly, very recently, I've picked up the transport area as well, which is a hot potato, I know. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of things going on, but my primary role is Head of Security.
Jav, welcome. I think this is your first time joining us here in the front room. What's your role? Where do you fit into the university?
So I'm a student support officer, so I provide welfare support for care leavers, carers and estranged students, and also mature learners. So I often get students coming and booking appointments with me and talking through any issues they might have. Now,
there was a whole discussion about support on campus. There's more yet to come. That's what we're doing tonight. That's the whole point of the support zone. It's quite possible that students watching, listening up there tonight are probably unaware of the amount of university time resource that goes into supporting students. Is it something that surprised you, Sarah, when you took on the role full time?
Yes, I think it did. I think as a student, you don't realise how much behind the scene work is involved. And then being here and seeing that one of my biggest projects is in a manifesto point, for example, you realise that there's still so much more work to do in communication. So yeah, I think there's a lot of behind the work. So as a student, you only see the headlines and the big wins, but you don't actually realise the time and resources it takes to get to that point. Yeah.
Mark, your background is in the police.
That's
Obviously,
right.
You're dealing with high-profile cases. It must have been a bit of a culture shock coming to a campus. What was it like for you when you first started here and dealing with student issues primarily?
Well, I was really pleased actually that when I came for interview, I was asking questions about what do we do as security to look after the well-being of students. So it wasn't for me ever about buildings and keeping things secure, just physical buildings. It was always about what can we do to keep all our 17,000 students safe. And actually that's the biggest part of my job. It's the people that we're keeping safe, and we spend a huge amount of time and effort looking after people in times of distress, working with the Centre for Wellbeing, working with the wardens, just to look after those that are finding things tough. And I think it's a bit of a positive actually that we're seeing more people coming forward. I think it used to be a thing where no one wanted to talk about it, but I think actually socially society's decided actually there's nothing wrong with mental health issues. Yeah. We all have them. It's a big issue. The key thing for the university is meeting the demand for the resources and all the different areas we need to work with, because The NHS is struggling to fund the amount of people that are struggling. But we're doing well here, I think, compared to many universities, but there's always more to do. Some of the stuff that come out in the manifestos I totally applaud and support fully. So, you know, I came from the police, which is a caring background, a lot of it, and I'm just reassured that we put the emphasis we do here on looking after students.
Something that perhaps you don't appreciate is that every year you have, 4,500 final years graduate, 4,500 first years arrive, 1 year masters, there's 2,000 of them coming. The churn of students is huge in a year, and that means that trends change really fast in a university. Jav, in the time that you've been here, I mean, Mark was mentioned, if I'm looking back over 10 years, the difference that in the role of security, but certainly in student support, it must have changed hugely for you in a short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I see more and more students who are care leavers self-identifying and booking appointments to come and see me, as well as carers and mature learners. So the word is getting out that the specific support is there, which is really positive. But also behind the scenes, I'm also working on something called the Care Leaver Covenant and the Standalone Pledge, which are two strategic policy documents that we're working on, which provide us like a framework to audit what we're doing at the university for strange students and care leavers, where the gaps are and how we can improve things. So that's something that I'm spearheading. I'm really, really keen to fill in those gaps for those students. And that's one of the huge changes that I've seen.
We're just about to go back up to hear the rest of the zone candidates. Sarah, when you were a zone member, I remember you and a couple of other zonies come to see me and you had this idea for Welfare Watch. And I think it actually sprung out of watching security and the limitations of university security. I think there was a frustration that there was only so much security could do. Something else could come of it. So these candidates really can make a massive difference if they really put their mind to it.
Yeah, they really can. So Welfare Watch was something that myself and two other support zonies worked on for the whole time we were a support zone. Because that's something we saw during Freshers Week when we talked to security and realised that their duty of care starts and finish in Rubix. So we were like, okay, there's definitely a gap in the support services. And we started thinking about what we can do. And it was definitely a project that we led on throughout the whole year when we were support zone officers, and then it got launched when I was full-time, but there was definitely a lot of work before that. So yes, as part-time officers, there is definitely a substantial amount of work that they can do, and that should not be neglected.
We've already seen a huge amount of enthusiasm at the start of this debate. We've got a load more candidates yet to see, and of course the candidates for VP support. Right now, it's time to go back to Rubix for the second part of the support zone debate.
Chairing the debate for Support Zone, please welcome Cameron Qureshi.
I'll catch you in a minute, yeah?
Chairing the debate for Support Zone, please welcome Cameron Qureshi.
All right, okay, I left my pint up here, bad mistake. Cool, so before we get into this next debate, we just have a quick statement to read from one of the candidates before we go. I'm reading it word for word, so if it sounds weird, it's because I'm reading it off paper. One of our candidates, Ache, has asked us to make you all aware of her Tourette's syndrome, which includes involuntary movements, and would like for us to reassure those watching that she's not being rude towards the audience or any of her fellow candidates. Okay? That being said, I'd like to invite the second round of candidates for the support zone to the stage, please. All right, so just for clarification again, each candidate has been asked to prepare a 45-second answer to a question they were asked. This question is, introduce yourself, why you're running, and how you plan on balancing your time as a part-time officer next year. If you're still talking at 45 seconds, I will move on to the next candidate. So we'll start again from my left and work my way to my right. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and get started.
Hi, I'm Gabby. I'm a third-year vet student. The reason I want to run for Support Zone is because I've been a peer supporter for the past 2 years, and I've really loved working with other people who are passionate about mental health and having even the small impact that we've managed to have across university. And I really want to take on a bigger role and see if I can have a bigger impact that way. I think I can manage my time because I do so already. I really love being busy. As long as I have a bit of time to sort of an hour of the day to myself to do something I want to do, like gym and look after my own mental well-being. So yeah.
Great. Okay, Izzy?
Hi, I'm Izzy. I'm one of your current Support Zone candidates and I'm currently on placement, and I'm running again because I've absolutely loved being on the zone this year, and I'm so passionate about all the work that we've all done, and I would just love the opportunity to continue and bring my enthusiasm and dedication to the zone. And in terms of managing my time, this year I've been on placement working 9 to 5 abroad, and I've still managed to work on all my manifesto points from last year, so I hope to continue to do that if re-elected. Thank you.
And Lucy.
Hi guys, I'm Lucy and I'm a third year maths student, and I actually spent my second year abroad in Los Angeles. So the reason why I decided to run for Support Zone is because I think a lot of students still don't get the support that they necessarily need, and I think that's really important, and I think I'm trying to build on my personal experiences to kind of give everybody the best experience that they can when they come to university, because I think, as everyone said, it can be a pretty hard time, and that's what we're here to help with. With regards to managing time, I'd like to think I'm quite an organised person as it is, but I spent the last semester as a peer advisor for the international engagement team, as well as working another job, and so I think I can kind of handle things quite well.
Brilliant. Okay, and Hatche.
Hi, so I'm Hatche. I'm a second-year events management student, and I'm from Belgium. I'm the current president and Wellbeing and Inclusion Champion of the Benelux Society. So my course only has 12 contact hours, which will give me plenty of time to both balance my studies and this role. And if I were to be elected, I would make this role my top priority because it's something I'm really, really passionate about. And I would make sure that every student feels comfortable here at Surrey because it's something that really matters to me.
Great. Okay, so we'll get straight into some manifesto questions. We'll be starting with Gabby. One of your manifesto points includes continued support by services like Positive Minds after Centre for Wellbeing sessions. Without having access to the list of names of people who've been to these sessions due to data protection, how do you plan on knowing who to provide this continued support for?
Obviously, due to confidentiality, it's not something that people doing Positive Minds or those sorts of things can reach out to these people, but it's for the Centre for Wellbeing to know to signpost to the right services for following support afterwards. So it's just letting them know the information so that they can signpost to who they think would help most for each individual case, so that there can be continued support, as 3 sessions for some isn't enough, and I think that may help so that there aren't repeat cases going back to the Centre for Wellbeing, and that might then reduce the waiting time.
Okay. Hatche, you've mentioned in your manifesto point about creating kind of information videos of students and their stories. So how would you reach out to these students to gather the information and stories to raise this awareness for visible and invisible illnesses? And where would these materials be shared?
Right, so I mentioned these videos and, well, I would send out emails to the students. I would make sure that these emails do not sound pressuring, because obviously sharing a personal experience can be really hard and it's a very delicate topic, and it is understandable that not everyone is ready to share something like that, but for the ones who would be interested, the video would be shared on YouTube, on Facebook. I know Be Visible did similar videos a few years back, and I thought they were really interesting. I really think that we should spread awareness, raise awareness of everyone's issues, because it will make us all more understanding and empathic towards our fellow students.
Okay, Izzy, Let's Talk is something that's been heavily unattended this year. How do you think, as you've mentioned in your manifesto, the rebranding of Let's Talk will increase attendance and its interactions with students?
Well, for a start this year as a zone, we have sort of decided to not push it as much because less people have been coming, and also not a lot of us are based in Guildford this year. So that's one thing I really want to do, and just work on it and push it a lot harder and create videos that haven't been made yet. In terms of the panels, I think they're really important, and a lot of people I know who've been to them, including myself, find them very informative. However, I feel like they need to be on what students want to hear, then more will come. So maybe work with like the Make Your Change campaign and all the issues that came up from that, and pick those ones to base it on and run discussions around that.
Okay. And Lucy, you've mentioned that you want to run events for returning placement students, which again is something that's been attempted this year but has seen very low attendance. So how do you plan on having an increased attendance and interaction with students this year?
So I think my main point from that, which was not just placement students, it was also students coming from study abroad, is that a lot of these events are career focused and are about kind of furthering our future and studies, where I think if they're more focused about being social and informal and just kind of as a place to come and chat and catch up and talk about your experience, and then we realise that we're also there to talk about our well-being, I think people will be more willing to go. Whereas if it's just about shoving career in your face and your future, people don't want to really talk about it, especially if they've spent a year working. They kind of want to come back to normal life, and I think it's kind of important that we're there for their social and well-being as opposed to just kind of getting them out of uni.
Okay. Great. So, as before, we're going to go into a general question. It is the same question for all the candidates, which I'll just repeat. Which of your manifesto points do you think will impact student life the most, and why? So we'll start from my right with that chair and work left.
I honestly think the videos and inclusion promotion is the one that would impact students the most. I do believe that we're not really capable of understanding other people's struggles, and they're not capable of understanding ours. For example, when Izzy Watkins was running as Liberation Rep, she mentioned that transgender students have difficulties finding housing, and they should, because of transphobic landlords, and that they should be getting accommodation on campus. And that's something that hadn't even crossed my mind because I was so uninformed, because people didn't really talk about it enough. And that question time just opened my eyes about the topic, and I really hope that people will be coming forward, opening up about their personal struggles, which will raise empathy around campus, and I think everybody will just be more understanding and everyone will feel more comfortable and understood.
And Lucy, same question to you.
So I think my point that will affect most students is my first one about accessibility, because it's great. Awareness for invisible disabilities is on the rise, as we're seeing from like different campaigns that are going around the university, but unfortunately too many students are still not getting the support that they need, and I think that's like quite disappointing and disheartening for people, because when you have an invisible disability, it's really hard for you to approach someone about that because they can't see what you're going through. So as well as you being in that struggle, you have to explain what you're going through and whatever your condition is. So I think giving accessibility and making accessibility more accessible, because to be honest, like if accessibility is only there when demanded, it's not true accessibility, and having that is just giving that to students is, I think, helping so many more people than we think, because in the end it is invisible, so we don't actually know how many people it's affecting.
And Izzy.
I'd say my point on student support, so it's all broken down into three things. So one's personal tutors, which I want to continue to make sure the training is going to happen. It was one of my manifesto points last year, and there are plans to include compulsory top-up training for all tutors, but I just want to make sure this does happen and it will impact all students. Also, the implementation of learning support agreements. So when you are a student with a disability in your neurodiversity service, you make a learning support agreement to help with your time here. However, there's never really sort of a follow-up on it with your academic department. So I feel like if the disability coordinator of your department actually reads through this, they can then tell you what can be put in place and what can't, and then give other recommendations, just make you feel more supported, and also so there's less confusion, because I know a lot of people have recommendations on there and nothing ever really gets acted on.
And lastly, if I talk really quickly,
that's fine.
okay, it's sort of to do with Panopto. I just want to agree that I always will push and make it clear that I feel like everyone should Panopto as we're paying £9 to be here. But it's sort of an idea that we've come up with to sort of, for on optional modules, have a pledge that lecturers will Panopto it. So when you're making decisions on what to do, you can see clearly whether or not you're going to have your lectures recorded, which I think can make a difference to people with disabilities or just want to revise from home. So, yeah.
And Gabby.
I think for me, it's my last point, challenging stigma, which is obviously a really long-term thing. I mean, everyone everywhere is trying to challenge this now, and I'm not saying that in a year on the support zone I can fix this across the world, but don't think that's a reason for us to give up hope. I think we should all keep working towards it. For me, it's working with staff. I know over in the vet school we have some very unhelpful comments about how once you graduate and you're in the real world, it's going to be so much harder. So whilst you're at university, why are you struggling? You shouldn't be struggling. It's so much easier. And I think actually educating them about what our struggles are and how they might be able to help with that may help all students across the university.
Great. Well, thank you for all of those answers. We are going to again chuck it to the floor for a question if I can see one anywhere. So anyone have any questions? Okay, great. Oh, I've got an arm up really far at the back over there. If we could get the mic over to him. Right at the back. Do you want to put your hand up again? Cheers. Good catch.
Oh, hi. So this is mainly about the disability part that most of you talked about is and how raising awareness and all of that. But I feel like personally, and also some of the people that I know struggle from disabilities and also mental health issues that prevent them from sometimes like going to a lecture or like sometimes when they're for example, things that haven't happened in library, like when during winter they close the only accessible entrance to library. And half the bathrooms and like only 2 accessible bathrooms are in the library, and
I'm going to have
all
to
the way
push you
outside.
just to get to a question, please.
Yeah. So, like, what are the strategies are you going to try to implement to actually support these students and actually hear their struggles as well, and sort of understand that? Are there any strategies to hear out the students and their troubles?
Could you say that with the mic a little bit closer? Sorry, I think we're struggling to hear over here.
So, what are the strategies they're trying to implement or you're thinking of implementing to actually hear out from the students and actually support them both with lectures and in different services and on campus?
Okay, did the candidates get that?
I didn't get that.
Okay, the question I've had put to me was, for students with mental health difficulties or accessibility requirements, what will you do to hear these students' struggles and support them? Is that about right?
Yep.
Great, okay. So I'll repeat that again just for you guys. For the students with mental health difficulties or accessibility requirements, what will you do to hear these students' struggles and support them? So we'll start on my right and work to my left.
Okay. So I'm guessing you guys are all aware that we have liberation reps for different minorities, and one of them is disabilities, chronic illnesses, and neurodiversity. So I think we could work closely with the liberation the liberation reps and just find a way, because I don't think it's acceptable that people with disabilities, chronic illnesses, and mental health illnesses have to go through a harder procedure just to study, I guess.
And Lucy.
I think to hear them, like what Haji said about liberation reps is really important, but also my third manifesto point about just creating a space that if people just want to come and chat, but they don't, whether it's not in crisis or anything, but they just need someone to get there, and then we can, if it then is more serious, we can further them onto the support that they need. I think that is a good way for people understanding that there is a place for them to come talk. And to actually support students, I've spoken to DNS and other staff members of actually improving, I don't know if you know about the Access Able app, because it's absolutely terrible. It doesn't have any of the big sites like Lakeside or Starbucks on it, and I think it's really important that ensuring all accessible routes, toilets, gender neutral toilets and all things like that for any students, and even quiet places and places where people can relax but without the pressure of anything for students, that they know that that's there, because at the moment we have a platform for it but it does not have that information. So even if students want to use that, they can't.
Okay, and Izzy.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing again. Work with Liberation reps, because that's what they're there for. I'm there for a reason. And one thing I want to do next year with the whole Let's Talk rebranding is to give the Liberation reps, so the Disability University and all the others, more of a presence on campus and include them in the videos early on in the year, so people know that they're there and they exist, and there is someone there who represents them, who they can talk to if they are struggling with an invisible illness or mental health or any of the other Liberation rep positions too. And in terms of supporting them, just listening to them, I'm always available if anyone wants to send me a message, and that's what we're there for, as a support zone, to like collect information and work and improve on these services. And anyone can come along to the support zone meetings, like they're free for everyone to come and share their issues. So yeah.
Brilliant. And Gabby, please.
I think the other candidates have made some really amazing points. I don't really know how to add to it. But I think one of the really important things is to actually ask them what they want, to communicate with them, find out what they think that they need from us and see if that's something that we can provide them. Yeah, I don't really know what to add to you guys, but yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we've actually run a bit quick here, so I've got another question for the candidates, but I do want some very short answers on this, so just literally naming what it is. So what do you think the Support Zone's best initiative from this year has been? So I'm going to start on my far left and work to my right, so Gabby, starting with you.
Probably Positive Minds. I think I heard that their first session had a really, really good turnout, and I think that's amazing, because having been a peer supporter the last 2 years, we've had a very low uptake, sadly, and I think if we can revamp things and make new things like Positive Minds, that's really, really good. Yeah.
Great. Okay, and Izzy, sorry.
I mean, I was going to say Positive Minds as well, but I'm going to go Welfare Watch, because I think there was such a need for it, as a lot of students were getting thrown out of Rubix with nowhere to go or no one to support them. And I think it's really great that we now have someone who is there, like group of students who are there to like help people if they're getting kicked out, just like, you know, have a drink of water, throw up if they need to, and just and just get better again. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. And Lucy?
I think utilising the Hive and bringing in the Samaritans and Over Feel Good Feb, Tito's and Talk, because it basically has given a start for that really calmed place that people can just come chat with no pressure. And that's kind of where my third manifesto point is, to kind of create that as a more regular thing and not just for 1 month or once a week.
Great. And Atche?
I think the collaboration they had with the activity zones as well, the wellbeing and inclusion champions. I think the training is really interesting as well and really helpful, and I think it's really a massive game changer for clubs and societies.
Brilliant. So that kind of brings an end to the Support Zone debates. I'd just like to have one more round of applause for all the candidates that have come up this evening. They've done a great job. So I'm just going to give a quick refresher of who's running. There are only 5 places available. So we had Ellie, Julia, Hussein, Beth Stone, Gabby, Atche, Lucy, Beth Burns, who videoed in, and Izzy. Other than that, we're going to send over to Pundit's Corner with the biggest BNOC on campus and CEO of your Students' Union, Alan Sutherland. Thank you.
Well, there we are. So that is the debate for Support Zone candidates. As explained at the start, in case you missed it, those students, they all stand together as a group. It's called an instant runoff, and the top 5 take the places with the top 2 sitting on exec. Now, we have a vacancy for the rest of this year on the support zone, so whoever polls the highest number of votes can take the place immediately. However, if they don't want to do that, or if they're not in a position to, they can roll over to the second person. It's a little bit like Bullseye, if you used to watch that with Jim Bowen. However, that was last century, so probably not. It doesn't affect anybody if they don't want to take it. They will take their positions in August or July as everybody else is. That's the other thing to point out. A lot of people don't realise that when these elections happen, it's not like a general election where they take over straight away. The students and the SABs don't actually take office until the summer. So a whole load of stuff in there. My first impression is that if we were listening to this 5 years ago, we would just be talking about waiting times for the Centre for Wellbeing. Tonight, we are talking about Samaritans in the Hive. We're talking about wellbeing champions in clubs and societies. We're talking about Welfare Watch. We're talking about Nightline. There's been a huge explosion in students supporting students, and it is the real focus for the support zone and for the campus and for everything, which is it's all about wellbeing and mental health. I think we'll take a long view and a short view, perhaps from yourself, and you know we've got two different viewpoints here. Gemma, Sarah, where has this come from? People talk about a mental health crisis in universities. People talk about well-being. It really is on the agenda. What's happened? What's at the root of this?
I think it's come out of actually those things that you say about the waiting times in the Centre for Wellbeing and things like that. I think a lot of the fact that people felt they've had to wait for help from maybe a counsellor or a sort of service has led to maybe that reliance on peer-to-peer support, and that sort of actually maybe I can deal with this with that sort of interline of support, as it were. So that's sort of not necessarily the top level, but actually peer-to-peer will be enough if I can just have that on a regular basis. I don't know, that is sort of one, that could be one sort of line to it, I think. I'm not sure.
No, yeah, I agree with you. I think also, so Student Minds did this research that shows that students are 3% likely to talk to a professional and 75% likely to talk to a peer. So there's a massive gap between that, which is why this year we've really focused on students supporting students, which is why we've really tried to have these new initiatives, such as Wellbeing Champions, such as Positive Minds. And I also think that's also why they had such a big success, is because students are just more likely to talk to someone their age who understands a bit what they're going through. So I think that's why those things are more on the agenda now than a couple of years ago, which was a lot more centred to professional support at the Centre for Wellbeing. Not that it's not needed now, I still think it's very important, and students cannot replace a counsellor, definitely not. But I think it's the little step in between that is more and more important, and students are also ready to support other students and be in that position.
So a few years ago when Jess was VP, there was lots of campaigns, let's talk. So now people are happy to talk, that's what you're saying. And now as they are talking, they've got somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Well done, Jess. Let's talk works.
Okay,
Just need to know where to talk at.
Just, shut up now and again. Mark, I'll get in trouble for that sort of thing. Mark, looking back over the last 5 years, 6 years, what do you think has caused this change in attitude to mental health, people talking more, people being concerned more, and people getting, people having real difficulties in more and more situations?
Well, I think aside from what's happening in the university, just across society, you've seen celebrities, people coming out talking about their concerns and their issues, who are looking at them, you'd think, well, they've got a perfect life, they've got all these wonderful things going on, but actually everybody can suffer from mental health. And it's, you can be as strong as you want for as long as you want, but in the end, mental health needs to be dealt with. So I think the social media, people talking much more freely about it, it's made people feel less anxious, ironically, about coming forward and talking about it. And I would just echo what you've just said. The students here are very, very good at looking after each other. We get numerous reports into us saying, I'm really worried about my friend. Can you just help us come out and we'll talk to them? But there's a real good culture amongst students looking out for each other, which is a really positive thing. So I think all of the things you just said are spot on. And, I really give you great credit for some of the stuff that's come on I've seen in my time, Nightline, Welfare Watch, all of those things. Because actually we'll only beat this or get on top of it together.
It's something that you're absolutely right on. With the change in social media attitudes, at one time they used to be horrendous now. Do you remember Yik Yak?
Oh God, yeah, that was just in my first year. Oh,
It was a
did you ever see it?
Never, no.
Oh, it was this
vitriolic
app.
abuse. It was completely anonymous, and it was centred around a certain area. So there was a geolocation around the university, and you could say whatever you wanted, and you upvoted it and down.
Yeah, you could say anything.
It was vile, and then almost overnight, people
was
said,
actually,
I'm not going to do it.
I remember it, Surrey Decides in my first year. It was terrible. You could comment on a candidate and, you know, someone could put anything they wanted. It was completely anonymous. And then someone else could upvote or downvote that. And you can imagine, like, if it's upvoted and it was a horrible comment, it could take ages until that comment was taken away. It was not censored at all. So
Tonight, what I see online, what I hear upstairs, it's a far more positive atmosphere.
Very supportive.
People are encouraging, people are supportive. At the same time, people are asking questions. People, you know, want to know who to choose. Jav, students are really stressing, and we've got survey evidence for this, over marks and how well they do academically. Controversially, is this something that perhaps is being overemphasised?
Overemphasised how?
As in, is this something that everybody needs to just step back on and perhaps look at a more rounded university life rather than just your actual academic performance?
Yeah, absolutely. And from when I'm meeting students, what I'm hearing is that students are having a fantastic time with friends. They're involved in Surrey Sports Park. They're doing a lot outside of the academic studies. So I think already students have a lot here at Surrey that they're focused on, which is not just marks. But of course, there's the students who are going to be anxious. And I think the university has been really great in responding to some of those anxieties and bettering services for students.
You were talking earlier about the whole diverse range of students that you deal with, first and family, care leavers, widening participation. You know, with 50% of sixth formers coming to university, there's a whole new demographic studying, and that's something that's going to take a while to adjust.
Absolutely, and one of the things that we do in the department that I work in is that we're continually learning from other universities. So Kingston, whether that's Brunel, other universities have diverse populations. What are they doing? We're going to those universities and learning from our colleagues. We're learning from the sector, and that's something we're continually committed to. So we want to listen to the voice of our students, but we also want to learn more broadly as well. And I think Surrey's been fantastic at that.
Mark, tell us some of the things that perhaps students don't realise that your team have to deal with, because I'm sure, you know, security is seen around campus, keys, unlocking rooms, maybe telling people to turn the noise down. On an average night, what sort of things would a team deal with?
Well, we do deal with a little bit of mental health issues out of hours. Once 4 or 5 o'clock comes along, we are the response to everything that comes into the university. So we deal with a lot of students in crisis. And you know, we work really hard on that, but we're also dealing with the other things that come in. We've got the report and support line, which hasn't come up so far today, where, you know, we're picking up stuff from there that's a great value. We're picking up more reports through that about what's going on in sexual offences that go on that have been unreported before. So I investigate those along with a colleague of mine, and we work with other parts of the university to try and improve and prevent those things from happening. And obviously drugs is another area which has been quite a large increase in the last year. And we're working really hard to, you know, keep this place safe on campus. We're realistic, you know. There will always be drugs around as there are in society, but we don't want to see a surge in drug taking here, and certainly not Class A drugs, which we have been seeing of late.
There's a whole lot of research about this, that a new generation is coming through that is less interested in alcohol and sex, but more interested in drug taking, which is a very unusual mix. And that's something we're seeing on campus as well.
Yeah, we're seeing that, and we're also very much aware of county lines, which gets talked about a lot. Every university in the country, I think, has seen some infiltration, and we're working really hard to make sure that we stop that and make that a really difficult environment for drug dealers to come in here and take over. But it does take a lot of work and effort. I think we're doing okay, but you can never be complacent.
So we have to go back upstairs. Both of you have done this before. In a nutshell, VP candidates, what do they need to do to stand out? Gemma?
Need to be true to themselves, need to show what it is they bring as opposed to the generic stuff. I think everyone can bring sort of, you know, the whole experience, but what is it that they've truly got to themselves that's their own experience, that's their own thing? And they need to show that to everybody else.
Sarah?
Yeah, I agree. Anyone can continue projects, but I'm looking for someone with innovative ideas, someone who's going to bring something new to the table, and someone with energy as well. So yeah, I'm excited.
Especially for support, energy's needed.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, now it's time to go upstairs. Let's see if drinking and shagging and cocaine features in the debate as we go and hear from the hopefuls for the candidates in VP support.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I'm a Vice President supporter of the Students' Union. So the Support Zone is all about supporting student well-being as well as students supporting other students. So in terms of supporting student well-being, some of the big achievements I've done this year are having a sexual happiness on campus. That's every other Wednesday in the Centre for Wellbeing. That was one of my main manifesto points as well. Something else that's put in place is Samaritans on campus. So Samaritans have been in the Hive every single Sunday, even throughout the Christmas holidays, as well as every single day during the exam period. That's a big win. I've also worked with the university on reporting support. So reporting support is a anonymous reporting tool for students and staff. In terms of students supporting other students, I have implemented Welfare Watch, which is a group of volunteers who support drunk and distressed students on Rubix night out to make sure they get home okay. I've also put in place Positive Minds, which is going to get launched in February. And there's a group of volunteers who run peer support for students with anxiety, low mood and depression. And lastly, I've been working with Lizzie of VP Activity on Wellbeing Inclusion Champions, essentially to oversee the welfare of the club and society members. So some of the big achievements in the support zone this year. I hope you enjoyed the debate. Don't be a stranger, get in touch with me if you want to.
Chairing the debate for VP support, please welcome Irene Garcia.
Well, good evening, Surrey, and welcome to your first VP debate of this year's Question Time. So tonight's debate is for the role of VP support, and this role is to lead the support zone in ensuring that the union has student well-being and support, obviously, in mind in all its activities. So without further ado, please welcome all the candidates onto the stage.
Glass of wine.
All right, a very warm welcome to you all. So the first question is to introduce yourself and explain why you're running for this position and what you'd like your legacy to be. So Sophie, I'll start with you and we'll move on to my right.
Cool. Hi everyone, I'm Sophie. I'm a microbiology student here at Surrey. I am a disability activist, I'm a crisis peer support worker, and I am also a charity events promoter. I've worked in and around mental health and social care for about 5 years now. My legacy, if I was to be elected for VP support, is to ensure that no student feels alone during times of adversity. It's okay to not be okay, we all feel like that sometimes, but as long as you've got a strong support system in place, you'll be fine. I believe that if I was VP support, I could help maintain and develop the support systems here at Surrey to ensure that it's a safer, more happy place for every single student.
Hi guys, my name is Juliette and I'm a final year French sociology and psychology student. So throughout my time at Surrey, I've been involved both as a user and as a provider of support. So I've been a student life mentor, I've been a Nightline listening volunteer, and I've also been a peer advisor for the study abroad office. So I believe that all of these experiences that I've had all of these experiences have made me so passionate about the role of VP support and about helping other students. So if elected, I would like my legacy to be my whole rep system. So I believe that the implementation of this system is a proactive and long-term solution to loneliness and to dropouts that I generally believe it will make a difference to the lives of current and future students. Thank you.
Thank you. Racine, please.
Hi, my name is Racine. I'm a final year psychology student. I'm from Malaysia. And I'm basically running because I've been a sexual, support against sexual assault. I'm really panicking. Survivor sexual assault supporter for quite a long time, so this is something I've really have very strong feelings about. I'm very passionate about supporting people with a lot of mental health issues because it's not an easy thing to deal with, and I'm very passionate about helping all our male students primarily to kind of improve so that there's more support for male mental health on campus. So my legacy is basically to be able to allow male students to be able to feel more confident about coming forward with their mental health issues to anyone. Thank you.
And Aaron, please.
Hi everyone, my name's Aaron. I'm a 4th year chemical engineering student doing my masters. The reason I want to run is because I've been through, I've had the personal experience of poor mental health, and I've been through the university having both experience good and lack of care from the university services, and that is something I want no student to go through and make sure that they're all completely supported all the time. If I was your VP, I want my legacy to be that the University of Surrey is a stigma-free zone where everyone can go and talk about their mental health and not be afraid or ashamed to go and get the support they need.
Right, so we'll just jump straight into some manifesto questions for you all. And Aaron, I'll start with you, that's okay. So in your manifesto point, it's okay, you can drink water if you want.
Thank you, sorry.
In your manifesto point, let's talk mental health experiences. You propose organizing events for people to share their experiences with mental health issues. I wanted to know, what is it that you're trying to achieve with this initiative and how it contributes to students feeling more supported?
Okay, so as I said, I have suffered with poor mental health myself. I have gone through a variety of processes in that, and I have gone through I've gone through the period of self-harming, and I know it is taboo, but it is something I want to break the barriers of. I found that when I spoke about it to other people, I took control of it, and I no longer felt ashamed of it. As I said, like I'm mentioning it now, like it doesn't control me, and I want every other student to feel that when they're in that situation, when they talk about their mental health, that's what they feel empowered when they talk, and they feel that they are in control of it.
Thank you very much. And also, to add on to that, how are you going to gather interest in these sort of events? Because it is true that the union has sometimes struggled with engagement from students when it comes to discussing personal experiences before.
So in terms of gaining the interest in that, that's why I was looking at using people like the SABs, whoever gets voted next for this year and next year, whoever is in past SAB, using them as faces that the union knows, the university knows, in addition to any well-known lecturers and alumni, if any of them had any past mental health experiences, using them as a famous face to go and grab for the seminars, like content online, such as videos and that, about them talking. That would be how I would gain their interest.
Okay, thank you very much. Right, so Racine, you have already mentioned, and your Thirst Manifesto point discusses focusing on helping students who have been victims of sexual violence, which is obviously very important and definitely necessary. I wanted to explore the fact that you seem to focus exclusively on aftermath action, and you don't really mention anything preventative. And I wanted to ask you why that is, and if you have any other ideas in mind as well.
So, as someone who's kind of stood against sexual violence, because I've been a victim of sexual violence from my early teens, like quite a few times as well. I know the university has a few approaches in the moment to increase consent practice and so forth. So I figured instead of just telling candidates that I'm just going to continue pushing for that, for what they've already have in place that's slowly going to be developed, I wanted to focus on making sure that the candidates understood that, sorry, not the candidates, that everyone else knew that their well-being is going to be a priority to me at least, because I know for the aftermath it's very difficult to kind of tackle after that, and I just want to make sure students are well supported after. Because sometimes you can do a lot of preventive actions, and obviously we can keep telling people rape is bad, no means no, and we can keep pushing that, but sometimes it will still happen, and it's out of our control. But what we can take into control is how well we can support them after, and how much we show them that we still care, and that whatever happened to them is not their fault. Like,
Thank you very much. Right, Juliet. You mentioned a whole rep scheme in your manifesto, which has the potential to be a very intense project. I guess what I want to ask you is, have you thought where this scheme fits within the union structure?
Yeah, so I have done a lot of research into this scheme, and I have talked to a lot of staff in the university, including the head of the student life mentoring scheme, because currently the student life mentors organize social events. So I used to be a student life mentor, and I noticed a lack of participation from students in this scheme. And when I went to see the head of the student life mentoring team, she told me that this would not be running next year. So there's going to be a big lack of events for first-year students, a big lack of community on campus. And I feel like Surrey is a campus university, but sometimes it can feel like a city university. You can be surrounded by people, you can be in halls, but you feel alienated and like you have no meaningful connections with other students. So I think it fits well within the union because it won't be run by the university next year. And I don't think it is, I don't remember the word that you used, but I don't think it is too much of a big project because the training is not that extensive. From talking to the head of the student life mentoring team, it is like a half a day training on how to budget and where to signpost students if they need extra services or if they have any questions. And I think it would be great in terms of highlighting where common rooms are at universities so that first-year students can be empowered to use them and to make their experience what they want it to be.
And have you thought about how many reps there would be? Would it be one per flat or?
Yeah, so I'd ideally want to have 2 whole reps per court. So that's, or if in Manor Park it's per court, yeah. So that's 19 halls, so that would be about 40 reps.
Okay, thank you very much. And Sophie, you talk about a 24/7 crisis worker on campus to be there for students' needs. Now, arguably, offering this type of service means that the union could potentially exceed like the legal limit on its duty of care, and you would also need to take into consideration that you would need to create at least 2, but realistically 3 more jobs for this, so people don't overwork themselves. This would come at a cost to the university. So is it really necessary when other services like Nightline are already in offer?
So in terms of the services that we've got in place at the moment for crisis, if you find yourself in crisis, the first port of call is to call security, which usually means that you're going to be hospitalised, and there is a big gap between needing to be hospitalised. Obviously, if you're a risk to yourself or a risk to anyone else, then that is what you need to do. But that whole grey area, I feel, is something that really, really needs to be addressed. As of December, all of our wardens are mental health trained. So I intend to utilise the things we've already got in place, be that the wardens are available 24/7, because currently you're only able to contact them via email and it's a 48-hour response time. And if you do try to contact them out of those hours, you are signposted to contact security. Security are, a lot of them are ex-military, they wear uniforms. It can be quite a traumatic experience for someone who's already in a bad place. So even if it was something as simple as having a security guard who stayed in the office with the mental health training that they're already provided, but it's a non-uniformed officer that someone can go talk to just to calm them down. They've got the de-escalation training to be able to make sure you get into a good place. From there, you can be referred onwards to the Centre for Wellbeing or somewhere like Safe Haven or any of the continuing care teams that we've got already in place in Guildford.
Perfect, thank you. All right, everyone, so now we're going to move into a general question, and we're going to do an activity, which is an accessibility round activity. And I've got here some maps for you guys. I'll pass them on.
Thank you.
So this is a map of campus, and I think, yeah, it's flashed up on the screen so we can see. So Right, at the risk of sounding controversial, accessibility around this university is quite complicated. I think we can all agree. So as VP support, you would need to be familiar with accessible routes at the university. You have been given a map of Stag Hill campus, and I would like you to draw the route someone with a physical disability or problems moving would have to take to get from Simply Fresh to the Hive. But it would be after 8 p.m. when the lecture theatre block is closed.
Oh.
You have 30 seconds on a counter.
Is that okay?
That is okay. So quickly, I will ask you to flip your maps so that the audience can see and explain the route that you've decided that the students would need to take. So Aaron, I'll start with you.
So mine went, I think mine might be a bit wrong, but it basically went around coming out of the library, out of the entrance that faces the accommodation, and then turning towards the teaching block, then coming around all the way through the car park and that, and then back round up by DK, and then back up the hill there. That was...
I believe that could work, yeah. It could be
a long one.
Convoluted, but yeah, I believe that could work. And Racine?
I think I got mine wrong, actually. I'm not going to lie, because I was thinking of like stairs and I was getting all that mixed up. So I went around the whole building because I couldn't go forward. And I think I forgot that Senate House, actually the laundrette had stairs instead, because my brain went blank a little. Sorry. So I was thinking of going up because I know there is like a little ramp slightly further down, but I think I may be wrong entirely. So sorry.
That's all right. I'm getting verification if it's right or not currently. But we'll move on to you, Juliet.
I'm not gonna lie, my sense of orientation is really bad. So even figuring out which way this was really hard for me. I don't even know my left from my right, to be honest. So I couldn't do this exercise, but I'm 100% aware that this university is not fully accessible to disabled students. So this is something I want to work on if I get elected.
And Sophie?
So I'm pretty sure there's a ramp if you go out the front of the library. When you go past LT, before you get to the sort of auditorium bit, there's a ramp on the side of that. Alternatively, down the back, when you've got the stairs that go down as if you're going towards the laundrette, there is a ramped route down there as well. But regardless of both of these, as someone who struggles with a disability myself, accessibility on campus is a joke. It's really a joke at the end of the day. Every single route you would have to take does add extra time onto your journey. As someone who doesn't really want to be getting out of bed that extra 5 minutes, that extra 5 minutes is really, really important for me and my well-being. I shouldn't have to make so many accommodations to my route. So if I could put a big cross through this, I would.
Right, so the most convenient route will now appear on screen, I think, yeah. So you would still have to do the entire turnaround, which is not convenient whatsoever. I guess I pose this exercise to you as a segue into the question, how would you offer support to people who have trouble navigating campus like that? And what are you going to do to help them? Sophie, I'll start with you.
So I've actually been working with the union already this year with the lovely Nicole Rofe, everybody. She's in the audience here. Thank you. We have been working with the union a little bit over the last year to improve accessibility on campus because it just isn't a particularly good place to try and get around. I aim to integrate, so one of my manifesto points is a inclusive curriculum, which means taking account of everyone's needs regardless of if you're disabled or of your race or regardless of everything, to ensure that our learning strategies and our teaching strategies are inclusive of everyone and everyone's different learning needs. I would also like to launch forums for anyone who would wish to contribute about what you would like to see as a student with accessibility issues on campus, and then continue working with the union to make sure that these get implemented as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you. And Juliet, please.
So one of the things I'd really like to work on is improving the accessible app. Currently, it somewhat tells you which route to take, but there is no reporting tool. So you could have an accessible route and then have, I don't know, like a tree fell on that route and you wouldn't know. So if you're in a wheelchair, you'd go on that route and then you couldn't get to your lecture, for example. So I'd like to add a reporting tool on there where you could report any issues that are impacting accessibility to lectures or any of the other buildings on campus.
Perfect.
I'm not gonna lie, I was actually thinking of the accessible app as well, because I know it needs a lot of updating as well, because there are a lot of issues that tend to happen. We have a lot of pathways that tend to close, and there are just so many issues to it. So I was thinking of updating it more efficiently, where we do have people walking around, so it just makes use of other union members who are walking around, even casually, just to constantly be able to update the app as well, so that anyone who uses it, and this is accessible to obviously every uni student, that they do know about what's happening and what's changing around campus, so that they can kind of accommodate the new route if they have to take a longer route. Sorry. Thank you.
So one of the things with this is obviously it's highlighting the fact that the university themselves do not supply enough routes on their own campus for these students. For instance, I work in BC, and I've often thought we're on the second floor. I know how to get there. If I happen to, for instance, break my legs and be in a wheelchair, I'd know how to get there, but everyone else I wouldn't. So, to fix that problem, it's mainly something that comes down to a money issue with the university, in my opinion, supplying more accessible routes, such as more lifts and that to buildings that don't currently have lifts. But a way to ensure that it's signposted better is to highlight much better, as at the moment, as you saw, none of us knew the most ideal route to take. The actual ideal route is worth highlighting to everyone so that we can help out anyone else who's on campus by having signs about. But yeah.
All right, thank you. So I think we'll now be taking questions from the floor. If anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask. I see. Yep, I see a hand over there. Someone get that person a microphone.
Oh. Hi everyone, you're doing great by the way. My question is, what is your take on the argument that Student Minds or the student supporting students model is placing unfair pressure on students, and such pressure should be on the university to find our mental health services in a better way and fund them in a better way?
Cool. Did everyone understand that question? Yeah? Right. So Sophie, if I can start with you.
So interesting enough, I've got a little statistic for you guys here. The Student Mind survey last year actually revealed that 75% of students are more likely to go and speak to a peer about their problems, and only 3% are willing to go towards staff. So though I completely understand asking students to take on this extra thing is a big ask, it is something that students would utilise better than extending services, which we do need to do as well. Obviously, everything like Student Minds, something like that, is very well supervised. Every single person who works within this scheme, there is a lot of checkbacks, there's a lot of reflection to make sure that you are doing okay, because you are not in a position to help anyone unless you're in a position where you're okay yourself. So although the university does need to step up and take more responsibility for their students' mental health, part of the union's thing, or part of the support zone's thing is students supporting students. I think empowering students to help each other like that is just a good life skill to teach people anyway. Be kind to each other, help each other.
Can we just repeat the question, please?
Right, if you want, I can paraphrase it for you.
Yeah.
So what is your take on whether students supporting students puts more responsibility on students that should be the university's responsibility instead?
So I think peer-to-peer support groups like Student Minds fills different roles. So these are not conflicting things. So I think Nightline, for example, fills a role that the university can't fulfill, which is talking to someone who is in the same position you, they're a student, they understand your struggles. And having myself worked as a Nightline listening volunteer, I understand that the stuff that I've been told, as a counsellor, you wouldn't necessarily get told, and you wouldn't necessarily have that friendly conversation style of support. So I think they fill different roles, and I think both are key, and I think obviously we need more support from the university, but I think we need to keep those peer-to-peer support initiatives.
Thank you very much.
Sorry. I think like the other candidates said, like having a peer-to-peer support system is very important because it allows us to talk to people that are in similar positions as we are. But to an extent, I think there should be some responsibility in checking if the peers who are volunteering their time to help others, that they are okay. There should be weekly checks especially, just to make sure that they're all doing okay. If they aren't able to cope with it, we could suggest taking a break so that their mental health is also being prioritized, not just people who are making the initiative to call in and everything, because they are taking quite a bit. It is quite draining to do so, and I can understand that point, but we should still like continue peer-to-peer support just so that it seems more relatable than asking, sorry about that. It seems more relatable to suggest this method than having a Samaritan who's a volunteer who tends to be an adult or someone much older than us. Or, I mean, for undergrads, obviously. For postgrads, it could be the same thing. There is this issue where peer-to-peer support system doesn't necessarily work in a postgrad situation. So it possibly depends on what course they are in. An alternative would actually be to offer better counseling support for the peers who are volunteering their hours, just to make sure that their well-being is top priority to the uni for sacrificing such a large amount of time to help other students all across campus. Thank you.
So I'm very much for the student help and students, and obviously in terms of the university being able to be taking more of the responsibility for it, as Sophie's statistics said, students are more likely to approach other students, and because of that, the students that are running the sessions and the ones who are looking after, that is the key point where the university can get involved to make sure those ones are all right and make sure that they're then giving the correct advice to the rest of the students. So as a first point of call, a lot of people will rather tell their friends the majority of the time than go tell a staff member, because there is that level of intimidation. And if the staff can go to the people who the students are happy to go to, it's very much more likely that that's how there'll be a much better route of accessibility of information between all services. Thank you.
All right, well, I have some statistics for you all. Between October last year and January this year, the Students' Union ran the Being Well, Doing Well survey and received a total of 1,679 responses. 48% of students responding to the survey have thought of taking their life, and 9% have made an attempt on their own life previously. Furthermore, the last Pulse survey states that only 7% of students have ever used Nightline, and staggering 18% don't even know what that is. So why do you think this is, and is there anything that should be done to increase awareness of Nightline, considering that none of you have mentioned it on your manifesto? So Aaron, we'll start with you this time.
So getting Nightline more awareness and that. So I didn't mention it on my manifesto because I think it's a really great service, but one of the things I was unaware of until I watched all the Surrey Decides previously was some of the more common services that would be that greater to have accessibility to and knowledge of is like walking home and that. But in terms of those thinking of taking their life, it would be much better to think about how to approach. Excuse me 1 second. Better to approach a more accessible union as well, because there was a massive thing that people are less likely to go to the union and know what the union's doing. If people are aware that the union is actually there to support and increasing the accessibility of the union team, we're all there. Like, if we any of us get put in position, we're all there to support other people, and a lot of us, all the part-times, all the sabbaticals have all been in your student situation, and a lot of us will have had similar experiences to those. I hope that. So it would be about making the union more accessible to know about.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, sure, basically. So I'm asking you do you think that we should do something to, well, you as in your role of VP support, should do something to raise more awareness of Nightline?
So, in my opinion, like, when you're in such a state, because I've been to a very dark place as well before, quite a few times, where sometimes it's very hard to reach out, even if it is to strangers. And while Nightline is an amazing, it gives students an amazing opportunity to speak to people, which I'm really excited, I was really excited to see. But I think sometimes it's just not that easy to contact someone, a stranger especially, on the phone to talk about what's wrong. So I can understand why maybe a lot of students, even if they are aware of it, they might not use it to actually discuss their feelings at the time, even if they're in a very dark place. So, but that's why I didn't actually prioritize it on my manifesto, at least. I prioritized more of breaking stigmas by addressing it, by sharing stories, so that people felt like there was a safe space to kind of hear things, and that they could understand that other people are going through it as well, not to diminish how they feel, but to empower them that they can still take action against it, that they don't need to feel this helpless. And I know not many people are in control of that feeling, but I just want to empower the students as much as I can. A way, in my opinion, to kind of promote Nightline a lot better, especially to students, would be to work closely with, if I was elected, work closely with the VP activities so that it becomes more of a necessity within societies and sports teams to not constantly, but weekly update to remind their members about Nightline, how it can help, all that it offers, and then in a really bad place, even if they're not in a very bad place, but they like to speak at night, late evenings after a night out, that option is still there for them. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
So the reason I have not mentioned Nightline on my manifesto is because Nightline is committee-led, and the committee currently is doing an amazing job. Some of them are in the audience, and they're doing the committee is doing the promotion of Nightline. And I think if I get elected as VP support, I would work with the committee to increase the awareness of students about Nightline, about the fact that no problem is too small, even if you're just walking home and you're lonely and you want to talk to someone on the phone, you can call Nightline. So I also want to push more for awareness of the fact that it is a messaging system as well. It's not just a phone system, because I think a lot of people are afraid of calling. But I think for me the key thing that should be improved is awareness of the fact that it is a messaging service as well. And I think the committee is doing an amazing job this year, especially at doing more social events to get just the average student to know about what Nightline is. So I think I want to work more with the committee and do some more social events. And also, last thing, work with the promotion assistants who have been hired this year, next year, to promote it to students. When you're walking around campus, just give out leaflets about what Nightline is.
So as a promoter by trade, this is kind of my forte, is how to get the word out there. So on my manifesto, I did actually say increase visibility of pre-existing services, which includes Nightline. So my idea, I've worked out a little bit of funding for it. If we were to increase the funding for the committee itself, even £50 extra a month, if we would put that towards Facebook advertisements, that's a whopping 28,000 people we can reach. It's something that you use your phone to call people for. People are on their phones. Social media is on your phone. I think utilising social media well, because we all use it on a day-to-day basis, is a really, really good way to get the word out there of the absolutely fantastic work you guys do. I've also been in contact with a local charity called the Recovery College. I say local, they're nationwide. They run workshops specifically, so they've got lots of different ones. They've got stress management, they've got peer pressure management. They do one specifically on coping mechanisms for suicidal thoughts. So little things, equipping students with skills such as, for me, something I found really, really handy is the rubber band technique. If you have those sort of thoughts, like pinging yourself with a rubber band, really good way to sort of like center yourself, bring yourself back into your body a little bit. Ice cubes, things like that. Teaching people coping mechanisms, so if they are in that position where they are thinking about hurting themselves, they have things just to sort of separate themselves from those thoughts a little tiny bit. Again, as Racine said, just empowering people to be able to talk about their feelings, and by improving the services we've got in place, because you can deal with things afterwards, you can deal with the fallout of suicide attempts, or we could put the groundwork in place to make sure that no student feels like they should be in that position where they want to take their life in the first place, which is where my focus is.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so we're going to go back into some manifesto questions again, and if I may ask you to keep your answers as swift as possible this time. Aaron, I'll start with you. You mentioned in your manifesto that you want to enhance available training for personal tutors. This is a project that is already underway. It was introduced by the Support Zone this year. How are you planning on expanding on this?
So I spoke to my senior tutor in my department, and so there's already training in place, and apparently the training is actually really good. But the problem is, at least with the people in my department, and I'm sure then it's very similar across, is it is voluntary. This should be compulsory. I mean, at the end of the day, we're students, we're paying to be here. Why isn't everyone trained to be able to deal with us? In addition to this, the way I thought to manage this is when you have new staff coming in, let's add to their part of their probation period that they must get the training done. And if they don't, well then their contract doesn't go any further. And when their contract is given, that they have to either top it up yearly or every 3 years, which is part of the system that the people in the zone have been working forward now. But let's make that with every new person that comes in as well.
Perfect, thank you. Racine, you make a point of increasing non-alcoholic events availability. This is really interesting because Surrey, according to the Being Well Doing Well surveys, Surrey actually has lower likelihoods of students getting drunk and drinking in general than the national average. So I was wondering if you could elaborate some more on what you have planned regards to this, because it is true that there is a shortage of available social spaces on campus for non-drinkers.
I don't think, when I added the non-alcoholic events, I wasn't thinking of, it's to prevent people from getting drunk and everything. It was more of aiding loneliness on campus so that other people have alternative activities to do, especially if you're not actually part of a society. Because when you join a society, join them on like bar crawls or even like any kind of like day out, we could go bowling and everything. It's a bit difficult to do because if everyone's already in a clique, you feel less welcome. And I figure as part of the union, if we kind of organize more events such as this, we would be able to kind of combat loneliness, especially within like postgrad students, so that they also have more activities throughout summer. And throughout summer when all the undergrads aren't around, as well as just any kind of other periods, like any kind of empty periods, such as outside term time periods. Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
Perfect, thank you. Just a quick reminder to keep your answers as swift as possible. Juliet, I'm curious about the logistics of making the consent course compulsory that you mentioned. The university is quite hesitant and against making this happen because there's a lot of questions that are proposed what happens when people don't do it? Would there be consequences for it?
So I'm just going to start with this question. What message does it send to students if you don't make a consent course compulsory? Does that mean that consent is optional? That's just the first question I want to start with. So I think it's taken the current VP about 6 months to get that course to be approved by the university, which is already a huge amount of time. It should not have been even a question in the first place. So in terms of the logistics, I studied abroad at Sydney University, and that course was compulsory. So the only way for me to keep studying there and to register with the university was to complete that course. I don't think it's a big issue for the university to have to do that with students. And obviously, they could have a meeting if they don't fill it in, and as to why they didn't fill it in. But I'm sure every student would be happy to that course, because it would be about a 30-minute effort that they have to do, which is essential for all students to have to take.
And Sophie, you mentioned that you want to collaborate with the charity Razask. For those of you who don't know, Razask stands for Rape and Sexual Abuse Support Center. How are you planning on working with a charity that has a current cap on the people that it can help and is not really taking on more people?
So I've actually been in contact with them. I've worked with Razask for the last couple of years already, so I know that they are not taking on any more patients in terms of long-term treatment. But my entire thing is a community-wide approach, because this is something that doesn't just affect university students. It's something that is absolutely riddled in our community. They offer workshops. They don't just do one-to-one treatment. They can do onwards referrals to other charities. And they also do workshops where they come into the universities and they can do consent workshops. They can do workshops about how to cope with those feelings afterwards, about coming out of recovery, about empowering us to make survivors groups. Which is something they've done. My little sister went to Royal Holloway. I know that's a very taboo thing to say around here. But they did a similar thing there, and I've had a conversation with them, and if I was to be elected, it's something they are very much willing to do.
Cool, thank you. All right, everyone, so to very quickly round up this debate, I'm talking one-word answers. Can you please tell me who you would want your president to be if you were to get elected for this position? Bear in mind, there are only two candidates left. Sophie, I'll start with you.
Whoever the best person for the job is. Is that okay? Can I say that?
I mean, it's a bit of a cop-out, but...
I'm taking a cop-out. I'm not taking sides here.
All right, I'll take it. Juliet?
AJ, because I've worked with her as a mentor, and I know she has amazing leadership skills.
Lizzie, just because I know how much she's done throughout the years while she's been in union.
Lizzie.
Thank you.
Get busy for Lizzie.
Perfect, everyone. So that wraps up this debate. Thank you so much for listening and paying attention to the candidates. And we will now head over to Pundit's Corner. Bye.
Welcome back to the front room. I have two distinguished members of university staff and two drunk sabbaticals joining me here. Sadly, our plans to include the new wonderful Facebook wall have fallen foul. So 4 or 5 people on Twitter are getting to extend their thoughts worldwide, and it's being transmitted onto the screens. So we're very grateful to hear what they think. So that was the debate for VP support. And just in case you're wondering when you can vote for this, voting opens on Tuesday night after the presidential debate. I'm going to start by talking about consent, because we've talked an awful lot about accessibility and mental health, but consent, and Mark, you mentioned report and support in a minute ago. I think it's worthwhile talking on that, and the rise in reported cases of sexual assault and sexual harassment, and the issue of consent and changing trends around sexual activity on campus. Sarah, there was a question there about consent being optional, a consent course being optional or compulsory. Just, you've got some experience in this. What is involved in a consent course? What's the arguments for making it compulsory and the arguments against it?
So just to clarify for everyone who is wondering, so this is something that I've been working on for quite a while, and it's to have a consent course, like a module of 1 hour on Surrey Learn. So it's in IT now, so it should be up and running quite soon. I'm personally in favour of having it mandatory, just because the people, if it's optional, the people who would do it are not necessarily the people we want to do it. The people who are interested in doing stuff like that probably already have the previous knowledge and understanding of consent, which is why I want it to be mandatory. But also, it shows a very proactive approach to consent instead of having a reactive approach. Like you've mentioned report and support. I find it quite interesting that none of the candidates have mentioned report and support, because I think it's a massive win from behalf of the Union and the university to have been able to put this in place. And I think it's a big step forward. So I find it quite interesting when no one has talked about it. But yeah, report and support, as great as it is also a reactive measure. So consent course will come in and be a more proactive measure of it.
Report and support was something we were asking for a long time, Gemma. Explain what it is. What does it do?
So report and support allows for students who experience hate crime, sexual assault, any sort of misconduct towards them to be able to report it both anonymously and also be able to give their name if they'd like to be contacted afterwards. It has been something that was sought after by Coyen in her VP support years. So we're talking a number of years ago. No offence, Coyen. I don't want to reflect on you being a number of years ago. And it's been an amazing tool in order to enable students to really have a voice, and staff as well, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
It joins the community together at Surrey to be able to actually give an accurate account of what is happening on this campus in the broadest sense. And I think that's what's really key as well.
Mark, you're on the receiving end of these. I mean, when somebody puts something in there, what happens at the other end?
Well, it's just, the report is looked at centrally through the Oscar team usually,
right?
And then it's given to the department that would best be placed to look at that. Now, obviously, if it's anonymous, it's something for us to try and develop and work up a plan for it. But where there's actual lines of inquiry, then that's where an investigation will take place. And I always, when I'm dealing with them, always say to the person who's reported it, you're in charge of where this goes and how we do it, and you won't see me charging over the hill saying we've got to go and do this. It's about empowering the victim who's gone through something quite awful quite often to say, right, we're going to support you, we're going to help you, we're going to get you through this, and you tell us how you want to play it. So that's how it works. And I would say we've had 108 since it was launched, probably, well, I think that was about September time, maybe slightly earlier than that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a really successful tool. It is staff as well, which is good, and we've had some staff reporting things. But I think when I arrived here, someone told me we had 2 sexual offences for a year across the whole campus. Well, I just can't believe that was true, and it wasn't. Actually, these sort of opportunities to report, hopefully some confidence in the teams that are taking those reports, have seen people come forward a lot more. And I'm very supportive of a consent course, mandatorily, actually, from my point of view.
Good to know.
Be a big investment, good investment.
Has it surprised you, some of the incidents coming through in report and support?
Not particularly. I think I was quite interested in the question about the level of alcohol students consume compared to others. Quite often, it's been a night somewhere, perhaps Rubix or somewhere else, people come together, they get so drunk they can't remember what's happened.
That won't be Rubix.
No, it won't be there, of course. But, you know, and you get the issue of consent. And when someone's so drunk, they can't consent. So there's lots and lots of different takes on that. But, you know, I think it's really important that we give real clarity about what the law says, the problems you can get yourself into if you don't think about things when you're in a drunken moment. So, yeah.
Jav, what do you see from the support service side around this issue of sexual assault, harassment and consent?
Well, when we come across students who are reporting those things, we encourage them to kind of take action on their terms, and we never ever pressurise students to do anything. My first port of call is always to let security know, to let the appropriate channels know, and to ensure that the student is reassured and know that they can take the next steps to inform the police if they even want to. So that's really our function, and that's how we tend to deal with things.
Something else that didn't come up, which kind of surprised me, was conduct on tour. Especially given what happened on tour last year, and of course tour may not happen this year, but
Northern Italy.
Northern Italy.
Not in Italy, no.
Really, but we are fortunate compared to many universities that have had far worse incidents, but there is still a cultural gap between those students who are heavily involved in some sports and those who are not.
There wasn't a massive sort of certainly didn't seem to have a massive sort of link on that activity and support. I know this year... I don't
think any of them talked about the link with activity.
No, whereas in the part like this year, it's been a really strong link, and actually even last year as well. But I think, I didn't really hear an awful lot about that link between...
Because there's a lot of them could be shouted about.
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
Welfare champions.
Yeah, like it's been mentioned a lot of like the zonies, like the support zone debate. A lot of them were wellbeing and inclusion champions, but it wasn't mentioned in the VP support debate.
No.
The other thing that I see different this year, and it was something that was always behind the creation of the support zone, it was about when students needed support, which was traditionally what the support zone talked about, but now it's when students want to support others. It's something which is, and we've talked about it a lot tonight, with students that are trying to help and support others with Welfare Watch, with Nightline especially. I mean, we see now we've got several different levels of support that people can go to. It doesn't always have to go straight to you know, the big red button of Senate House.
The big red button, yes, that's right. But the thing I would want to make to everyone is the security team are the 24/7. We're always there. We are very, very aware of the sensitivities around making a report, and we will, you know, follow protocols. And it is about empowering the individual who comes forward. So we really want people not to worry. There's a thing about, well, it's not that busy. I don't want to burden anybody else. You should burden somebody else. You should come forward, and we will get things better for you, working with other parts of the university.
Jav, what sort of benefit is there to the student other than the you know, the warm feeling inside from helping others? But you know, we talked before about not just concentrating on marks. How can it benefit a student if they want to get involved in one of these mentoring type schemes? What skills would they get from it?
So obviously there's, like you said, the warm fuzzy feeling you get from helping someone, but there's also the skills learning aspect of things. There's also the feeling as though you're part of a community and you're a valued part of the community that is, and you're helping others, and that's really important for a sense of buy-in of being at university as well. So there's a lot of things that students can gain, definitely.
We did a little bit of mischief making there when we looked at the route between Simply Fresh and Hive. That was an extreme case.
What a horrible question.
It was an extreme case, but it was a very pertinent one. It's something that we've discussed before, Mark.
Yeah.
It is a side effect of the location of the university and the age in which it was built.
Yes.
You know, it was built in a time when you know, the prospectus at one time used to have a phrase for disability access, and it said, you know, if you're in a wheelchair, we recommend you consider another university. That's what it said in the 90s. But now, of course, unfortunately, there is a huge legacy to overcome.
Yeah.
And I mean, Mark, we looked at that, we didn't even realise that was a problem, and already work is underway to fix that. What's going to happen?
Well, interestingly, we've identified that there is that problem through the lecture theatres. Actually, if we could get another reader on one of the doors, we could actually enable all wheelchair accessed students to come after 8 o'clock. They can come in any time and move through that space, and it shuts and locks behind them. So we are working on that in hand. But I remember a year or so ago, we were talking about the old security office, and I was horrified because I hadn't understood that you couldn't have got a wheelchair into that office at all. So it was a real moment of thinking, wow, that's a big deal. So we now have got access in through the second floor, so everyone who has a wheelchair can use the second floor access into Senate 24/7. So we're trying to provide, although we are fighting against an ageing estate and different designs, finding ways that put you in the space of someone who has to get around in a wheelchair. And unless you think like that, you'll never improve it. So there's a lot of work going on across the campus. Yeah.
The other problem is that the more that one relies on technology, be it lifts or automatic doors, the more you put in, you create an ever burgeoning problem of maintaining that. They go wrong, you switch them off, you've got security problems. The best way obviously is to have the correct ramps in the first place, which is even harder to put in on this campus. So it is something that is a very real problem. And thankfully we are beginning to see more students feeling more comfortable coming to Surrey and not being held back by the estate too much. It's something you've dealt with. Is you sit in a whole plethora of council meetings and all sorts of things, Gemma.
Yeah, I think actually touching on what Mark was pointing out, I think what's really helped over the last couple of years is actually that tour we've done with estates, or maybe not tour is a bad word, a challenge we've done to estates where we sort of started at the Students' Union and we've said, right, you're here, just get to Senate House for us, just go to security reception. And actually watching staff do that, they suddenly realise the difficulties. They think, well, I can't go down that hill. Because you're thinking, if I was going down that hill in a chair, I'd be going freewheeling all the way to the bottom. Be lucky if I don't end up halfway through
sort of the accommodation at the bottom of the hill. So I think that's been quite a good tool, actually. And I think making staff in estates realise that real barrier in themselves, you know, walking it, going, well, I won't be able to get up that curb. That's really helped, I think, the movement forward. And I think that's partly what's driven that change in the security office and that open security, which has actually been quite needed.
So I'm going to put you in the spot here. Knowing what you do now, listening to the debate that you've just heard, out of everything that people said, what's the one thing you would pick out and you would say, work on that?
I think I'm going to change the question a tiny bit, and the one thing I've noticed this year that I have not noticed any other year is candidates talking about their mental health. That certainly did not happen in my debate, and I don't think it happened previously. And you talked about like empowering students and stuff, and I think that reflects in this debate as well. And I was quite impressed to hear some candidates talk about their own mental health and challenges that they faced. So yeah,
I'd agree. I think a lot of that stuff around them talking about their own mental health. Maybe a bit on what Aaron said then about sort of breaking that stigma. I think that was a really interesting point.
Yeah, definitely agree, because if it comes from the top, like it then has a more like impact on students.
Yeah, cascades down.
Well, that's it for the Carey Sherry department. Now we're off to the Ministry of Fun. It's all about community, VP Rubix and accommodation. But first, it's from the community zone members, and there is going to be 4 elected because the 5th place, which sits on exec, is allocated for the rag chair. So now it's time to go back to Rubix to hear the debate for the candidates for community zone.
Chairing the debate for the community zone, please welcome James Steele.
Good evening, Surrey. How are we doing tonight? I'm glad that the Sunday night continues straight here. Let's get the candidates up on stage, shall we? Have you got Good. How's everyone doing tonight? Everyone feeling okay?
Pretty good.
Excellent. Right, we'll start with the first pre-prepared question, which was in 45 seconds. Who are you? Why are you running? And how can you balance your parts being... Sorry about that. How can you balance being a part-time officer of the community zone and also being a full-time student or placement student? We'll start with my left.
Hi guys, I'm Rachel.
Right. Sorry.
Hi guys, I'm Rachel. I'm a second year English literature and politics student, and obviously I'm running to be part of the community zone. Running for this position because although the union does a fantastic job, I think we all know that not everything's perfect, and I'd love to be instrumental in changing that. I'm going to balance my time well because I'm currently a social sec for the Politics Society, a course rep and a student ambassador, so and yeah, I'm just very time efficient. I like to be busy, so I got this.
Excellent. David?
Hi, my name's David, better known as #VoteD. I'm running for Community Zone because I really enjoyed my time at Surrey so far, but I know not everybody enjoyed it as much as I did, and I kind of want to create a more inclusive community where everybody feels encouraged to actually get involved with the community and which is safe for everybody. And I think I'll be able to manage my time pretty well despite being on placement. I've been on 3 committees and being a course rep this year, and I've handled it well, more or less. I think I'll be all right. If you want to find out more about me, also feel free to find my social media on Dave D for community.
Philip.
Hello, my name is Philip. I am from Cyprus. I am currently on my placement year. Oh, cool. I'm on my placement year. I study media, culture, and society. I work for the uni, actually, so all those emails that you guys are getting and keep deleting, open them. That's me. I think in the past I have been a student life mentor as well as a course rep, and I know uni can be a lot sometimes, and I've definitely seen it, but especially over the past year working full-time, I feel like I'm really confident in kind of making sure I get everything that I need to be doing, meeting my deadlines, and just kind of having a personal life as well. So I'm pretty sure as a part-time role, I'll do really well, and hopefully you guys think so too.
Amna. Sorry.
Oh, hi. Hi, everyone. My name's Amma. I am in my first year of law with criminology, and my main goal really is to bring the community together. I really like good vibes, happy people around me. So I like to create that environment I would like to create that environment for us. So how am I going to manage my time? I think I'm a very hardworking person, and when I put my mind to something, I really try to achieve this. So I think that's how I'm going to try to manage my school time and this. I have also had some experience.
I'm going to have to cut you off there, sorry.
Oh, okay.
No worries.
Sorry. Oh, well, both of me, Amma.
And Nat.
So, hi guys, I'm Nat. I'm a management with marketing and student currently on placement. And I'm running for community zone because I genuinely care about the student experience here at Surrey. The moment I joined, I became a liberation rep as a black students officer on the Liberation Committee. I was a student ambassador, course rep, and I was a society signatory as well of 2 societies. And everything that I wanted to achieve and everything that I did achieve all comes down to the idea of bringing students together. And I'd love to be able to do that in the community zone. I've proven that I've been able to balance my time effectively, and I'm sure that I can bring all the points of my manifesto to fruition as well.
We will now move on to the manifesto questions. If I start with Amna, in your manifesto, you talk about bringing backgrounds and cultures together with more cultural events on campus. Could you explain what type of events you have in mind to support this?
This year, I think I attended the World Week, that event where a lot of societies from different culture showcased their different cultures, and I found that really nice. And I think if there's more events like that, I think that we're gonna learn more about each other, and it will help us to create a beautiful community. And so I think more events like this.
Okay, awesome. David, you wish to create a citizenship award for students/groups that have served the Guildford Borough community well. What resources will you need for this, and who do you see choosing who wins the award?
Well, I was hoping to do it within the community zone, because obviously they have weekly meetings, and well, probably once a month, depending on how quickly it picks up, have just dedicated some time to decide who should get this award, and everybody should be able to apply, just how you can apply for the course rep awards. And you don't really need much resources, I think, for that, but all it should do, hopefully, is encourage more people to do great stuff for the community, but more importantly, actually bring attention to what people do. So I want to publicize this award on the screens around campus, about the people who have actually gained this award, and also on the Surrey Union social media, for example, Instagram, how they do just the society spotlights, for example. Do same thing about the great things people do around the community, basically.
Okay, thank you. Nat, you wish to launch a #Sustainable Surrey campaign across university sites. What outcomes would you like to see from this?
So my manifesto was written for two reasons. One, to introduce new ideas, and then two, build on the current initiatives that are going on from our community zone at the moment. The Sustainable Surrey campaign would essentially just integrate everything on the manifesto, from events and entertainment to raising and giving and sustainability, widening outreach and participation as well. A campaign that reaches across Manor Park, Stagwell Campus, and Hazel Farm integrates that. We'd see, in terms of specific outcomes, more engagement with the initiatives that are run by the community zone. For instance, having a sustainability aspect to it. 5 part-time officers whose main goal is to promote sustainability on campus. And then in terms of the other manifesto points, if I was to set up an events council, for instance, which is specifically working with societies to work with external organizations, you can somehow, you suddenly are able to integrate sustainability into that. Whether that's on a weekly basis, having weekly fundraisers, whether that's litter picking, whether that's recycling, you could do so many things, and it all comes down to an integrated approach that the community zone can take to not just reach students on Stagwell campus, as I've said, but whether you commute, whether you're a student carer, whether you're a student at GSA on placement or you study abroad, the campaigns that the union runs feel like everyone can participate in them. And I think not just to make it a monthly thing, but to build on, me and this campaign with the sustainability days, making it annual, so you have monthly activities that continue throughout the year that every student can feel a part of.
Excellent, thank you. Philip, you wish to bring a beer garden to the University of Surrey.
I do indeed.
Where do you plan on having this beer garden, and what will be taken away? What sort of space on campus will be taken away because of it?
Well, dead space, and I came prepared. I don't know if you're aware, outside Duke of Kent, we have an empty terrace. And before I show you this beautiful thing, I have consulted with estates and facilities and other people that are responsible for this kind of thing. There's no health and safety hazards. It's all ready to go. And this is what it would probably look like.
Have you ever thought about working?
So think pitch tent, but 10 times better. You've got your fairy lights, you've got tables, a bar, and before anyone asks, I'm aware that a lot of people don't drink alcohol, as someone said before in the VP support debate. We're 24%, I think, whereas the national average is 27% in alcohol consumption. Obviously, I hope to move the policies that Rubix currently has. So free soda drinks, the pints would be £3 for happy hour, all those things to make sure everyone feels included. And because a quarter of the people don't drink alcohol, a quarter of the menu would be able to cater to them.
It looks like you could probably have a career in planning with the way you put this together.
Horrible at Photoshop, but yeah.
Rachel, you want to work with the council to tackle the student housing issues. Could you name one problem area you currently see, and how would you work with the council to address this issue?
I knew you were going to ask me that, but because you're in the council, I think obviously it's like, because I want to create a handbook for second year housing, but not just second year housing. If loads of students intend to live in halls anyway, it's just going to be a handbook where it gives loads of information about rent, deposits, bills. I think one of the main issues that I know I faced when I was going into second year is, who am I going to live with? Am I going to get on with them? I chose my very best friends to live with, and I love my house, but I think it's hard to kind of choose who you want to live with, how you're going to get on, if you're still going to get on. There might be some tiffs, but whatever. And also another issue is I think just communication. No one really knows what's going to happen in second year, how you're going to get a house. I think there needs to be a lot more communication from the uni and the union in terms of what to expect, how to even go about getting a house and get a few friends together, when to start looking. So I realised that was more than one issue, but it's kind of open.
That's all right. Know your stuff. Righty, let's go to the third question. So this is going to be a countdown paper question. So you get all your sort of pens up in front of you. And we have the thing on ready. In 30 seconds, can you write down a night you would wish to see at Rubix next year? We'll start from my actual left this time. Excellent.
Masquerade night.
Ooh.
Musicals. I'm so sorry about these musicals.
I went with Bring Back Stormzy. And maybe Ed Sheeran because he went to ACM, so why not?
I put barbecue bonanza and Hawaiian shirts. Just 'cause I think everyone loves summer, dressing up a little bit, you know. Yeah.
Okay, well done. For the fourth question, in 45 seconds, no paper, don't worry. Which one of your manifesto points would have the most impact if achieved on the community zone? If we start from Rachel.
I think my point about communication, so I want to introduce quite a, I don't know, another word for intense, but intense like handbook where it kind of lists everything that, or everyone you need to speak to, where you need to go if something goes wrong. I think I really struggled in first year when I missed an exam. I didn't know who to go to, what first steps to take. So I think listing it all into a handbook, making it ready, available for everyone online and giving it out to them sort of in Freshers Week, I think that's really going to help and impact a lot of students at Surrey.
Excellent.
I think I'm going to go with my make Guildford safer point because I know because for that I want to work a lot with the local police because I know in the past a lot of people went to the police and have been laughed at or the issues have just been ignored and a lot of the time the police, while they do some great work, are also not always on the student side. So I want to bring back the police rep that we used to have on campus to make sure we have somebody to hold accountable and to make sure we have somebody to hold accountable and make the police more trustworthy and to make sure they actually take student issues seriously.
Can I just start off by saying that I find it insane that the last time we all came together as a community was through Surrey Fest? Why? I mean, great job, but why? I think it's because there wasn't some way to all get together on campus, and I can say that the beer garden is going to do that, but that very well be limited to summertime. So for me, I think that my plan for the Freshers Angels, making that a weekly thing, would be really useful. When I came from a different country here, I knew where I was going to, but I didn't know who was going to welcome me there. And my brother is coming to Surrey this September simply because he was so excited to see Freshers Angels just kind of welcoming us with open arms. So having that, instead of 2 days, having that be done for 5 days, I think that would be incredible, and being a part of the community right from the get-go.
I think my point for more diverse events will have a huge impact on us because it embraces all of us, and if we can all appreciate each other and appreciate where we come from, I think that will create a happy environment for everyone.
For me, it'd have to definitely be the events council, because the way it would work is, I mentioned that my manifesto is very integrated, and if you had, say, an annual culture calendar, you could have events throughout the year that celebrate culture and diversity in academia and in sports. But the events council would be there to essentially support every society and every sports club whenever they want to work with an external organization to bring it to campus. I mean, for context, last year when I was running Advertising, Marketing and PR Society, we brought Disney down. And then at the event, you had students that were at GSA that were studying English, psychology, in the business school for what was technically a business event, and that's really what it's about, bringing students who otherwise wouldn't have met together just through events that we were running. And I think when you replicate that across the zones, across the many societies and sports clubs we have on campus, you not only just reach students that are based on campus, but on other campuses, and students that are across all years, undergraduate and postgraduate.
Okay, I have to cut you off there. Thank you. we are going to have one final question, and we're going to have it from the floor, hopefully. So if you get the lights up so I can see. Okay, I've got one hand over there. Can we get the mic to Jacob?
Thank you. Hi. So when I stood for election in Guildford, it was apparent to me how poor a reputation students have in the minds of ordinary Guildford residents. How do you think you could improve our reputation with the residents of Guildford?
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with Nat.
So 2 on manifesto points. One of them is to work with local schools for social entrepreneurship initiatives for sustainability. And then the second one is to host weekly fundraisers with volunteers in Guildford Town Centre and on campus as well. And I think those 2 things would improve our reputation.
I think by bringing new ideas and actually fulfilling them and doing them, our reputation will speak for itself. The students will speak for the school, and that's how I think, we will represent ourselves well.
Thank you for your question. Obviously, it's a huge thing, community and students. Over the past year, I know that we've had conversation about community ambassadors and also the posters that you might have seen with DJ Leroy going, shh. That has been helpful to residents from feedback that we've received. But I think, as part of my manifesto, the beer garden, I truly believe that it would be great for students. Just imagine this. Instead of going to town to going all the way back to Rubix, you're on Duke of Kent, and 2 minutes away you go into Rubix. That would save so much noise, money, and obviously you don't have to travel everywhere. Safer as well, dare I say?
I think by encouraging with my award for more students to participate in stuff for the community, I think that will help relationships with Guildford residents if they, for example, see a bunch of students going around town litter picking or so on. So they won't just see students as these rowdy people who just go out all the time and make loads of noise. They'll see actually them doing stuff for their surroundings and especially maybe even hosting events in town that are for pro-sustainability and so on. Just doing stuff for the community. I think that will change their perspective and will ease off a lot of the tensions between the residents and the students.
So one of my main manifesto points was about volunteering and giving out rewards for volunteering. So I think you definitely need to increase the amount of volunteering that happens off campus. For me, I don't really know of any opportunities that I know about where I've been given an opportunity to volunteer off campus, but I was thinking of maybe having a scheme where we get a system in place to get people to volunteer in food banks, so actually giving back to the community, helping out. I think that the community will then definitely see that we are actually nice people, and also coupling that with a reward of a free wash load of circuit laundry or something. So yeah, a reward and volunteering, you're on to a winner.
Well, thank you for all the candidates for coming up on stage. I know how nerve-wracking it can be. A quick reminder as well for everyone in the audience and who are watching online that John Anderson and Limbui are also running for the community zone but are not here tonight. There are 4 roles available and voting opens late on Tuesday where you could choose any of these candidates. And thank you very much. Up next, we have Ragchair after going down to Pundit's Corner.
Well, a very interesting introduction to the community zone. I'm sorry if it sounds so loud. We've got the sound of Rubix being pumped down to the front room. I can assure you it is just us here, but it may sound a little bit busier than that.
That's better.
Oh, and there we go. Abruptly, the sound ceased. So, if you've just joined us, it's Jav, Mark, and of course, Gemma. Gemma, you are a former VP Community.
Yes.
And Zoni as well. So
Yep.
this is your area. There was a real diversity of ideas.
Yeah, I thought there was some real ambition in there, which I think you don't always see in Zoni. Sometimes they take the sort of level approach, which is really good to do, but I think there was a really nice level of ambition to that. And a lot of them seem to have thought about how they were going to go through the year. There was a few things about freshers, a few things that were a bit more longer term. I thought it was nice. It was a really good...
Because the easy option is, let's have more of this, more of the things we like and less the things we don't. But there were some really new and different ideas in there.
Yeah, I don't think we've had a forum for events discussed for a number of years. And actually, I think that's sort of the way students are going. So that was a really interesting suggestion from Nat. Love the beer garden. It's a bit isolated down this end of campus. We've seen that with sort of T's and T's. We know it's a struggle. So I think there were some really good ideas in there.
We forget that this is, well, we don't forget, it's a huge part of your job, Mark, that this is not just somewhere that 17,000 students study, but 5,000 students live. This is their home. They're here. And some of them are here 365 days a year. So a sense of community is really, really important, and some great ideas.
I thought there was a really strong group of people there, came up with some great ideas, very strong group. So I support, all the ideas that came out. I thought they're all very good. And there's clearly not just a whiff of an idea. Some of the people have gone out and actually taken it forward before today, which is really impressive. So, yeah, from a security point of view, I quite like the idea of people being able to have a drink early and then go to Rubix. That's all good for me as well. So, no, that was good.
And that's just the staff, Mark.
Yeah, that's just the staff, indeed. I just made the point, there was a comment made about students being disliked by the local community, and I'm not sure that is necessarily true. There are a small group of residents who are quite vocal. Actually, I think we've got quite a decent relationship in lots of ways. So I really support the idea of being more visible in the town, sometimes doing, works for the community. So I'm not sure it's as bad as suggested.
There is a huge amount of work that's happened over the last few years to improve that from both sides.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's nothing like, and certainly nothing like it is in some universities.
No, absolutely. So no, that's good.
Now, Jav, your experience before Surrey was at a very, very different university to this. Does it surprise you the different approach to student politics here at the university? So it's a bit of a wide.
Well, I actually didn't work at university before this. I worked for a youth charity.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So this is actually my first time working at university. So I've been here for about 2.5 years. But one of the things I really love is that there is a strong student voice that comes through. And even in kind of the line of work that I do, where I'm supporting care leavers and mature students, I'd be really interested to see that if this forum for events, or this council of events that was being referred to in some of the discussion earlier, really interested to see some of these students from these groups attend and really put forward what their ideas might be for their particular groups.
Could you just explain to anybody watching the term care leaver, the situation that they're in, how they get to university, and any particular challenges they may have?
So a care leaver is someone who has been through the care system and has been either in foster care and has usually come from a reasonably difficult background, and are usually coming here with kind of less support than other students, is the way that I would put it. And a mature learner in higher education is classified as anyone who's over the age of 21 and who is an undergraduate. So that is a mature learner, and that's a care leaver. And a carer is anyone who has caring responsibilities. And a strange student is a student who comes here without family support or family connection.
And how many students are you supporting in those categories, roughly?
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good question, sorry. I would say around well, I don't support all of them, but if we were to put all of those groups of students together, probably 1,000 plus. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Wow, it's a big part of the community.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'd be really interested just to hear, their voice coming through in any kind of forum that we have. It's a really important part of our community.
Gemma, you are slightly unique because you didn't come through university accommodation. No, and your experiences formed some of the work that you did in the community zone.
Yes, so you're quite right. I applied late to Surrey. Actually, I applied to it initially and then I didn't put it as my first or second. Don't tell them.
Days of conditional unconditionals, not then.
Not then, no, there was no such thing then. So I actually adjusted from Loughborough to Surrey during the clearing process. which meant I didn't get given accommodation in my first year. So I lived all the way out in Bertham for anyone doesn't know. I think you'll know coming up soon probably where Bertham is. So look out for that little treat, by the way, for a little nugget there for everyone watching online. Look out for how far away Bertham is. But no, it did mean that I formed quite a strong opinion on accommodation on campus.
Strong opinion, Jen.
A strong opinion.
I've never known you to have a strong opinion.
Never. No.
You keep yourself to yourself.
Years all the time. Never. And so I think for me, a lot of the support that you receive when you live off campus felt to me really poor, actually, in my first couple of years. And I felt like it was little things like, so what I introduced was a welcome talk for students who live off campus. If you lived off campus, you didn't receive a welcome talk. And I thought that was a really hard, I thought that's such a small little thing, but actually in your first week to go, oh, all of you all commute in some way or another.
Really good point.
Get to know each other. Little things like that for me were what I felt I missed out on my freshers week. So that formed a massive part of my campaigns.
Just very briefly before we go back upstairs, we spoke about the massive change in mental health attitudes. We have a big change coming down the tracks. You know, we are all geared up for students living in university accommodation. By the end of the next 2 years, there will be 2,500 student bedrooms that are not run by the University of Surrey. That's going to bring about some very unique challenges, and they're going to be outside the university support system. What sort of things have we got to be aware of?
I think how we create that community sense, that's going to be a real difficult one. We rely on, even just as the union now, I think, we put all of our booklets in accommodation on campus. Yep. We're going to have to really think about how we do our work during Freshers Week. Freshers Angels, they're all on campus. We're not really geared up for off campus in the same sense. We're going to have to rethink our side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right, time to wrap up, and it's rag chair now, I believe. So this is Raising and Giving. These are the students that are all interested in taking your money and giving it to somebody else. So now it's time to go to Rubix to hear the candidates for Rag Chair.
Chairing the debate for Rag Chair, please welcome Noah Swanson.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, in the audience and watching live to the debate for Rag Chair. Please join me in welcoming our candidates. So, as you can see, it is just me and Adesua tonight, so it'll be a little bit different. Going to try and make it a bit more conversational for us both. So, to start us off, if you could introduce yourself and tell us why you're running and one campaign or event from this year that you would like to improve. You've had time to prepare for this question in advance.
My name's Adesua. I'm running because I currently do a placement with a charity, so I've been able to see how donations and people offering their time and things like that has impacted the individuals and not just the company. So that's why I decided to bring that back to Guildford from next year. One campaign or event that I'd like to change or that I'd like to improve is, I would say November. The reason for that is because I would like it to be more streamlined, because loads of societies and clubs do their own thing, but if you streamline it into RAG, it just makes it more easier. So, yeah.
Great, thank you. So, since it's come back last year, the RAG chair role is now 1 year old. And so for those who don't necessarily know what it's all about, could you kind of tell me what it means to you?
RAG to me, well, it stands for raising and giving, as everyone would know. But it's more than that, because people think raising and giving means getting people to fundraise money and then giving it to charity. But you can also give in other ways, through creativity, through ideas, just through volunteering as well. So that's what it means to me.
Great. Okay. So, now I just want to kind of work through your manifesto. You have three kind of main points: awareness, rag representatives and transparency. So if we can just kind of chat through each one of those and see where we go. So if we start with transparency, something that I think is really important across all the roles available at Surrey Decides. I was just kind of wondering if you could tell me what you hope to achieve with that specifically to RAG.
Well, my aim behind transparency is because at the moment, we don't know how much RAG is made. That's the truth. But other universities who have RAG, they have like a whole page that says, oh, our aim for this year is 50,000, we've raised 20,000 so far. So if students are able to know, okay, we've raised this much, it will encourage them, oh, like, let's go to the target. So that was my perspective behind transparency. And also,
okay, so let's just try something. If I could have some house lights, please, crew. How many of you in the audience know how much RAG raised last year? So we've got one hand in the back. So I think that just really proves your point there, in that there's a need there.
Yeah.
So sorry to have interrupted you.
That's okay. Yeah, that was my point.
Okay. And so then you mentioned about advertising your target. Do you have any idea at this stage what your target would be for the 2021 academic year?
Not at the moment, no, because I've had to speak to the current RAG chair just to find out how much has been made, like just to discuss what's a feasible target, because I don't want to make like £1 million. That's not feasible for Surrey at the moment. So that's what I'll do.
Great, good answer. So, if we move on to the RAG representative section, if you could just talk me through what you want to do there.
Well, I know most societies and clubs have charity and fundraising officers, but I would like to rebrand that to be RAG, if that makes sense, because right now only Dodgeball have a RAG coordinator, but I want more and more like RAG, so it's more streamlined. We need to streamline RAG rather than just having like bits and pieces all over the student union.
Great.
So that was my...
So if we just shuffle this
forward, sorry.
That can help people to hear you.
Sorry.
And then so with those RAG representatives, you mentioned about it being a STARS criteria, having one being a STARS criteria. How are you going to encourage real engagement there rather than it just being a box ticking exercise?
Well, I spoke to Lizzie about potentially making it a STAR criteria just to see what she thought about it. It was just like an idea, but with my manifesto, it's having RAG reps in clubs to help achieve like the £100, £500, £1,000 minimum for STARS. That's what the aim was for.
Okay, great. And so you mentioned about having a monthly meeting.
Yeah.
Within that monthly meeting, how would you encourage attendance and also engagement in that meeting?
I'm not really sure how I would encourage attendance. I think if you're going to be a RAG rep or being involved in RAG, you're going to have a passion or interest in it. So that's going to be engagement regardless. So I wouldn't have to kind of force you or have to encourage you to come to the meetings. And so what's your other question?
Yep. No, so that was it.
Okay.
Just kind of attendance and engagement. Okay, so before we move on to your final point, do we have any questions on the floor? And also a reminder to anyone watching live, if you want to submit any questions, we will see if we can get to them. River, if we get the mic.
Hello there. Fantastic manifesto, by the way. Seems as you're the only candidate on there. My question to you is, so individuals raise money themselves, not necessarily through societies, such as they might do skydives, half marathons, those sorts of things. So my question to you is, how are you going to recognise those individuals for their achievements, and how are you going to encourage them to declare what they raised for the RAG fund?
At the moment, I don't think there's some kind of system that allows students to do that. So maybe creating that and creating awareness to that we have this system in place. You can declare it through RAG. So that's what I would do.
Great. Okay. So then, kind of your last section on the manifesto is about awareness. Again, something that's important across the whole of Surrey Decides. So just kind of talk me through the real importance there for the RAG chair role.
I think awareness is important because at the moment, no one knows what RAG is because it only got rectified last year. But even so, it just pushing on the awareness and making sure, okay, this is what RAG is. It's more than just giving. There's more to RAG than just giving. And yeah.
Great. And so Twitter is one section you mentioned particularly in that section of your manifesto. So if we could have house lights again. And I know my point is kind of broken as we've switched back to the Twitter wall from Facebook tonight. But how many of you would regularly use Twitter outside of a Surrey Decides context? Just a quick show of hands. Okay, so a fair number. Kind of, it's just interesting with respect to the union kind of retiring that platform a little more. I was just wondering why Twitter was the particular one that you chose there.
Because Twitter is less formal, and students don't always want to be formal, so that's why I chose Twitter.
Okay, great. So, do we have any more questions in the audience? Yep, our RAG chair.
Hi, you're all right. Doing a great job. What is the worst thing you think I've done this year? All feedback is good feedback. I was just wondering, what would you have done better? This isn't like a dig, but honestly, like whatever you think I could have done better would be great appreciated, because we can only increase year on year.
Personally, I don't think you could have done anything better, because you just got into this role that was recently rectified. So I think so far you've done a good job in getting RAG out there and just laying down the foundations of it. So I wouldn't really have anything, I guess, to say.
Okay, so one, you mentioned in the answer to the first question about Movember and wanting to improve on what the union does there. I was just wondering if you could talk me through kind of some ideas you had.
What I meant in regards to Movember is just streamlining the whole thing, because like I mentioned, each society does its own Movember challenges and stuff like that. But if we just do like a massive one as a union, that's just it's all streamlined. There doesn't have to be like segments here, segments here. We're one body, like we're a community. So that's what I want to instill. Great. Yeah, no, that sounds a really clever way of doing it. And so I was chatting with our current RAG chair, Owen, and he said one thing that he found particularly challenging this year was getting the student body to engage with RAG. And I know you've mentioned kind of creating awareness, and that would help along the way, but what kind of other ideas do you have to really foster engagement with RAG? I think if we utilize sports and societies, that's the way we can get engagements, because we can relay our messages to them and then they can give it to their members.
Yeah, great. And so did you have any ideas about kind of practically how that works out?
Not at the moment, no. But if elected, I can come up with some ideas with my committee members.
Yep. No, that's a great answer. Do we have any last questions from the floor? Lizzie, our VP Activity.
Hi, yeah, you're doing fab. It's scary up on that stage. There's been some controversy this year around the STARS criteria. So at the moment, we set for bronze, silver, and gold. We set specific goals for clubs and societies of how much they've got to raise. Obviously, a lot of clubs and societies say that ones with 3 members or 10 members may not be able to reach those goals, whereas bigger societies with a couple of hundred will. I just wanted to know your opinion on this, whether this is something you would change, or whether you think this is something that's you reckon will stay.
I think the current STAR criteria for bronze is £100. I do believe that's feasible. It's just probably just providing support to the clubs or societies that have fewer members.
Yeah, great. So, kind of to wrap us up, I mean, it wouldn't be a question time debate without a countdown timer. So if you want to grab a pen and paper, I know we've not had the VP Activity debate yet, but my question for you is, which of the VP Activity candidates would have RAG's best interests at heart? So if you want to reveal your answer to our audience. So Tristan, and then just yeah. We'll get to.
Did you say community activity?
I said activity. I meant
crap,
community.
sorry.
So that no, that's fine. That just means I get another countdown timer. That just means we get another countdown timer. So, the candidate for VP Community who would have RAG's best interests at heart.
I would say Tristan because his manifesto point about the sustainability reps, I think that's really good. So that's why I would pick him.
Great. Okay. I'm a little confused, but that's fine. That's just being up here. So, voting opens on Tuesday after the presidential debate. I'd like to thank you all for your time this evening. A big round of applause to Adesua for being up here. As you can tell, it's a little scary. So very well done to you and the best of luck.
Thank you so much.
That's good.
You shut your trap. You created this position. You're to blame. Why is there only one candidate standing?
Because she's the passionate one.
There we go. But there's not one candidate standing, is there?
There's
Explain
always
to the listener
Ron.
who else is standing.
There is always Ron, which
And
is
that means?
reopen nominations. So whilst Ade was amazing, if you feel as though she wasn't the candidate for you, you can always vote to reopen nominations and we can have a by-election at a later stage with new candidates.
Unlikely to happen in this case, let's be honest.
She was very good.
I thought so. I thought she did very well.
Very well.
I felt like I was intruding on a private interview.
It was like a little fireside chat between
Yeah.
you and Ade, it's very difficult when it's just one-on-one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's more of an
For
interrogation.
both of them, yeah.
Yeah. Let's not forget, this is a position which is, you take a position on exec.
Yep.
So you're the top of the community zone.
Yep.
And you do have a very important role to play. What sort of things are you looking for from RAG? This is, kidding, joking aside, Gemma, this is your vision. Where would you like RAG to go?
So I think RAG's all about the passion, it's fun, it's creative. I think creativity actually a really key element to RAG because it's fundraising and giving, and that can be a bit, would you give me some money? No, I'm broke. Oh, okay then. Well, no worries. You have to come up with a bit more creative ways other than just holding a bucket and standing on a street and dress up.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, it's that real creative passion, someone who can think outside the box, think about actually who can we reach out to as well, not just look at it as an inward focusing role. It really is a community role in the wider sense, in that they are someone who should be thinking about the wider public. How can we be engaging with Guildford as a whole, not just on the campus?
We had a great example of that a few weeks ago. You just mentioned it.
Yeah, no, the run.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just seems to be going from strength to strength. I gather you were saying that it was pouring with rain, but we still had 400 runners or something, and raising massive amount of money. So it's really impressive.
20,000 last year.
Yeah, over £20,000 last year, and I think we're still. I mean, last I heard the count was on something like 17,000 for this year, but and climbing.
Great.
And we certainly see with runs, it tends to be a bit of a sort of lag effect in the money raised. So, but just the enthusiasm from the runners as well, and the amount of people it brings in near and far. You've got students, but also you have got that general community feeling coming onto the campus, running around the campus. It's really great.
And it comes back a little bit to that earlier conversation about the view that students aren't liked or whatever. Actually, bring them onto campus, get them involved, let's work together. People get a different view. And actually, I think it's much more positive, as I said earlier. A certain small group of people might have a view, but generally, I think the Guildford public want to celebrate and be with the students a lot more.
Yeah. We have an important event coming up that the community zone lead on, which is Free Fest. Free Fest has returned. How many years has it been back now? 4, 5, 5, 6
4 or 5.
years?
4 or 5 years. Saskia's, yeah.
Jav, have you seen Free Fest?
I'm not sure.
So Free Fest, this is actually its 50th anniversary year.
Right.
Wow, okay.
But it hasn't been 50 concurrent years, but the first one was in June the 24th, 1970. I remember that I had the day off. And Genesis played that night, that day, that afternoon.
Wow.
It there was a bank holiday weekend, or traditionally it was the bank holiday weekend that they had the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 days of free entertainment.
Right.
And some of the old photographs you see of the campus, bands in the amphitheatre and things like that. And now we have it down by the stage on the lake. Outdoor cinema.
Yep. One day of outdoor cinema on the Sunday, and on the Saturday it's sort of live acts as well as sort of live theatre productions. Our GSA students perform. Some of our music students as well perform in their bands, which is a really good showcase for them out to the public, and a good experience, I think, of a genuinely live performance out there. It's amazing.
Yeah. But there was a whole period when all of this died away, and the idea of community work, giving to charity, I do wonder again, how has this come back into fashion?
Well, it's just great. The potential is there, and we've got enthusiastic people who want to make that happen. So let's grab it with both hands. It's great. Yeah.
Coming up next is the debate for VP community. What sort of things? What would you like to see? I mean, a VP is a full-time role. They do have influence. They do have money to spend. Jav, what could bring the university community together from your perspective?
Someone who is personable, someone who can build momentum, someone who can bring different people from different backgrounds together, a unifying force. That's what I'd be looking for, really. Yeah.
Mark?
Yeah, similarly, it's going to be about the personality in some respects, but having the skills to know how to find common ground with people and try and build partnerships up. And that's quite a skill to have, but we have got that talent here, so that's what I'll be looking for.
Gemma, what are the challenges they're going to face, and what do you want to hear from the candidates?
I think one of the most challenging things about the VP community, in particular compared to the other VP roles, is the diversity of the role and the amount of sort of multitasking they're going to have to do. Yeah. The amount of fingers in pies that you have is extraordinary. You go from one meeting discussing RAG, and it's great and creative, to the next meeting you have to just listen to someone about a hard-hitting issue in the community, about them being homeless, understanding that sort of thing, and then it can, and then discussing varsity, and again, something really fun and creative. So you really have to be able to take yourself from one mood to another and be able to almost adjust almost instantly without carrying over what maybe happened in the previous meeting. And I think in VP community, that's more than anything. So I think it'd be really interesting to see that diversity from each candidate, especially as a two-horse race. That's intense. That's a strong debate, that. So I think they're going to have to really show how each of them can diversify, not just stick to what their manifesto points are.
And both of these candidates have stood before.
Yes, they both know what it's like.
Yeah, so
they've both done this once before, so it'd be really interesting to see them come out of their shells a bit more. And I'd like to really see that persona that they'll have to give at things like Freshers Week, Varsity, Colours, Union Bull. It'd be interesting for them to show that off now as well.
These are big showcase events. And also, we are fairly unique in a modern university in having a large functioning nightclub. These are dying off.
Rubix is not dying yet.
Rubix is not dying off. We're doing quite well. It doesn't cause you too much problems?
No, not really. In the scheme of things, when you think about how many people are there enjoying themselves, we have the odd call there. The security that you employ obviously have a role, and we work with those individuals and works well. And now we've got the team that look after people who are worse for wear. That's worked really well for us.
Yeah.
That deployed a lot of resources, but generally, no, I think it's fine. Yeah.
It is, I have to be honest, a world apart from when I first remember. I mean, now we have trained paramedics on site during events.
Totally different. But I gather you are actually a DJ on some evenings there. Now, I would like to come along and listen to you spinning those decks. I would like to hear that. I went and saw Scouting for Girls last year.
It's a rare event.
And that was
jolly good. I don't
good.
hear about your private life, Mark.
No, that's another story.
Next time, Mark, you've got a VIP booth.
Oh, my word.
No,
well,
next
look
time,
forward to it.
Alan's
Give me the heads up.
That'll be a long time coming. Right, where are we? So, candidates. There are 2 candidates for VP community, but remember, and we mentioned this before, for every election there is always the option of Ron. So if you see these people and you think, I don't like any of them, hang on, where we didn't have time is now aplenty. So we will...
okay.
There we are. We can settle out.
We were like, we'll settle back in.
Tell us about your set list. No.
Nothing in the 21st century, Mark.
Right.
It's interesting you talk about Rubix. I'm interested to see what Izzy says about drugs in Rubix. That's a whole massive part of her manifesto.
Is she one for usually getting the old ketamine in the eyeballs? Is he?
I'm not sure about that,
Eh?
but she's got a whole point on that.
Showbiz sherbet?
Well, I'm intrigued to see what she actually puts in about what she's going to talk about and how she'll balance. I suppose that point around, Rubix is still her. It will be her nightclub if she's VP Community. She's in charge of it, but she's also going to balance that having fun on night out versus also wanting to promote drugs and. Well, not promote drugs.
Promote drugs?
Promote drug awareness and the safety around drugs. Careful how you campaign on that one. But that'll be a really interesting point to see how she balances that one up on the stage, because I think that's going to be a.
She has got
a
line about a review of the drug policy.
Yeah, the misuse drugs policy, and I think that'd be really interesting to see what her take is on that one.
Now, drug fashions have changed immensely. At one time, it was just weed. Then everybody was taking coke. Now, ketamine is the...
Ketamine has been found here on decent quantities occasionally,
Yeah.
which is surprising in some respects.
And stronger marijuana, genetically modified.
Very much so, yeah. And we've seen some heroin this year, which is the first time we've seen it. 3 times we've seen heroin, which is a concern.
This is like an episode of Taggart.
Yeah.
How
So,
How do you deal with that? It's security. I mean, you've got 4,500 bedrooms. It could be like the Wild West if you lost control.
Yeah, well, I think the drugs policy of the university gives a staged approach. So people caught with possession of cannabis will be dealt with by wardens, and then it's staged as we go forward if people continue to, breach that. Those who try to put the socks over the sensors, that magnifies the discipline problem and will be viewed quite badly. So there's that element of it, which is the right and proper that we manage that. But I think when we're stepping up into higher level drugs, then clearly the police will become more involved. And the stakes in terms of disciplinary, the outcomes at the end of it all include expulsion, and you are beginning to push to that level. Anything at the Class A, you really are. Aside from, and a criminal conviction probably at the end of it all. So, my message would obviously be no drugs at all. They are all breaking the law, but Class A, ketamine, all of that stuff is just not worth the risk.
Stick to VK, kids. Right,
Or
Community
WKD.
Zone, it's the home of varsity, freshers fair, charity fundraising, community relations, accommodation and Rubix. It's the zone that likes to smear glitter in its intimate parts. And now it's time to go up to Rubix to hear for the candidates for VP Community.
Who's been talking to you?
One of the major successes of the community zone this year was lobbying the university to bring in a better laundrette system, which they now have done. We've also lobbied for the previous laundrette systems to improve the standards and the quality of what they give students. The community zone has also focused on enhancing student experience this year, especially for PGR students who tend to be the most isolated. That's why every month within the union we offer a free breakfast to PGR students to bring them together and to let them know they're not alone. Another way we supported isolated students is by going to different campuses, going to different university campuses and holding events there. We've been to Hazel Farm twice and given out free food to Hazel Farm residents because from the feedback we got in the beginning of the year, Hazel Farm students tend to be extremely isolated, so we wanted to include them within the union community. During the Christmas period, we also held events on campus for students that tend to not go home during the Christmas period to let them know that your union will always be here for you and you are not alone. This year, we've also ensured that all our Thursday market vendors are giving out biodegradable or wooden cutlery to all our students. And finally, another achievement from the community zone is the introduction of the marketplace. The marketplace allows students to buy and sell their old or unwanted items. This is another way the union is being more sustainable within the university. There are so many more things the community zone has done, but I can't fit in a 90-second video. However, you can always get involved. And thank you for listening. My name is Amina and I'm your VP Community.
Chairing the debate for VP Community, please welcome Max Maroney.
Hello everyone. Are we ready for some more spice? Woo! Yes. Firstly, can I just say how happy we all are that the Twitter wall is back in action? I think this just shows the power of student voice representing your union. We brought back the Twitter wall after only an hour. Right, it's time to bring on the candidates for VP Community.
I have to remember not to woo. Now I've got a microphone in front of me. Right, okay, let's get going. So let's start with the preset questions. So you've got 45 seconds, as you know from this evening. So firstly, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us why you're running and what you'd like your legacy to be. So we'll start with Tristan.
Hi, my name's Tristan. I'm a social sec for Dodgeball. I'm treasurer of both politics and Surrey Liberal Societies, and I play defence for the Surrey Stingers. In my spare time, I study physics. I'm running to improve the sustainability of the University and Union, create a more inclusive and social campus, and to change the way that international fees are advertised to international students to make it fairer. I want my legacy to be setting up frameworks that last a long time past my tenure as VP Community, and I think that my policies will do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tristan.
Hi everyone, my name is Izzy and I'm a final year music student. The Students' Union has provided me with so many amazing opportunities throughout my 4 years here at Surrey. I've had the chance to represent my cohort as a course rep, I've sat on the support zone, I've been on the Liberation Committee, founded AutiSoc, the Society for Students on the Autistic Spectrum, been the LGBT+ Society Events Coordinator, and more recently founded PetSoc. And it's through PetSoc I've developed a passion for bringing students together, and this is what has inspired me to run for VP Community. I want to organise events that unite people, that are unique and memorable, and that students remember when they reminisce about their time at Surrey. I'm passionate about everything I pledge to do, and I look forward to sharing my ideas throughout this debate. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Izzy. So, both of you, I'm sure you're no strangers to being on this stage. So, you both ran last year. Izzy, you ran for VP Support, and Tristan, you ran for the same role, VP Community. So, we have pictures of you up there from last year.
Oh, that's
time last year.
What a lovely photo.
I made sure I chose the best screenshots I could. So, my first question is why do you think you weren't successful last year, and what's different this year? And Izzy, why have you chosen Community rather than Support this time? So, we'll start with Izzy, please.
Sure. I think I ran a good campaign last year. Some of you will know that I lost by just 4 votes. So I think I did quite well. But, you know, I lost to a fantastic candidate. Sarah's been an absolutely amazing VP Support. I couldn't have lost to anyone better. So, love you, Sarah. As for why I've chosen to go for Community this time round, when coming up with pledges, I realised that my ideas are more suited towards community this time, and also, as mentioned in my introduction, the work I've had through PetSoc has made me sort of more interested in that sort of route, you know, uniting students. In particular, through PetSoc, I've acknowledged how it's amazing that we have people who come from all different courses, backgrounds and countries, and I really like to sort of unite students through PetSoc, celebrating our similarities and celebrating our differences, and this is just something I really want to be able to achieve and throughout the whole union as your VP Community.
Thank you.
Yes, so I think what I've learned over the last year since my last campaign was shorten the manifesto. I had a lot of very ambitious and what would end up being time-consuming policies, and I think that came across as maybe being a bit far-fetched. So while my policies this year are still ambitious, and I still want to provide as much as I can as using my time for students, I think that there are fewer of them, and it makes it more realistic. In terms of why I lost, I think Amina ran a brilliant campaign, and I couldn't fault it, really. It was fantastic, so thank you.
Cool, good. Very honest, this is good. We want an honest next 40 minutes now. It's a good start, good start. Okay, so we'll go first to the manifesto questions. So Tristan, we'll start with you. So you want to introduce a sustainability chair position in the union. So do we really need another position for this? And how will you get people to run for it, considering, as we've seen before, we only had one person this year run for RAG chair?
I think absolutely we need a position to show that we're keen in changing our policy and attitude towards it. I think obviously I'm going to be a VP community candidate that's very focused on sustainability, but once I'm gone, other VP community candidates will come that have other priorities, and rightly so, they should. But I want to make sure that sustainability is always on the edge and of what we're focusing on. Could you repeat the second part of that question?
Yeah, so how will you get people to run for the position,
okay,
considering this year only one person ran for RAG chair?
I think it will be similar to the other chairs in terms of Team Surrey chair and Society's chair. Obviously, there are thousands of us that care about this issue, so I think that there's going to be a massive number of students that may be interested. I don't think we'll have the issue of low turnout for applicants.
Okay, cool, thank you. So my next question on that is, so surely shouldn't sustainability, I mean, it's a core part of the VP community, the community zone as a whole. Yep. I looked through the last 4 minutes of the last 4 meetings of the community zone, and they mentioned sustainability points in 2 out of 4 of them. So it's already a big issue in the community zone. So why specifically do we need another role, another thing in Surrey Decides, another debate? Why do we need another thing for it?
That's a valid question. I think the union and the university are starting to pick up and talk about this issue more, and which is why I think that this policy coming in at this time is exactly what we need to make sure that they're doing extra to make sure that this is considered in all of our motions and policies that we put forward. There's always a viewpoint of sustainability in those.
Okay, thank you. And then also, final question on that. So this position would only be created in over a year's time, next June or July when the new subs come in. So what will you do in the meantime for sustainability, apart from just creating this position that will only be in after you've left?
Yeah, okay, so again, good question. As you can probably tell by my manifesto, it's one of my what I consider a burning issue. The VP community has considerable weight when talking to the university. They sit on the Executive Sustainability Steering Group, which reports directly to the Executive Board of the university about policies which the university can adopt. So I will be going to these meetings. There's also, they're split into transport, what we do in the curriculum, energy and consumption, and buildings, to name a few. And I think that pushing for things like LED street lighting, divesting from Barclays, which is a huge investor in fossil fuels and things like that, can have a huge effect on our impact on the environment.
Okay, cool, thank you. So, some round of applause, yeah? Cool. So, Izzy, so you say on your manifesto that you want to work with the Liberation Committee to expand the culture fair. So can you explain to me what the culture fair is and why do we need it, as well as, we've already got One World Week, we've got the One World Week fair and the showcase. What else why do we need this other culture fair?
Sure. So I'm a big fan of the Liberation Committee. I've attended meetings ever since it was founded in 2017, and I currently sit on it as the LGBT+ rep. I attended the Culture Fair, I think it was a year or 2 ago, and it was a really, really nice little event. We had steel drummers, food vendors, and jewellery stalls. However, I think it definitely has the potential to expand. I'd love to turn it into a culture festival, bringing a variety of different cultural stalls to Patsfield, having live music from a range of countries, and just having a great day out. And I want this event to attract not only people whose culture is being represented there, but also people who haven't experienced cultures other than their own, as this would be a really fun way to showcase the different communities we have on campus and get students to experience new things. As for your point about One World Week, that's just a week, but we should be celebrating all the amazing cultures we have here at Surrey throughout the year, not just 1 week in December. So that's why I'd want to bring the fair maybe like sort of halfway between, so maybe like May time, so it's outdoors in the sun, just because we have so many lovely cultures and so many societies that celebrate these cultures that need to be showcased more.
So just to be clear then, would this culture fair be in addition to One World Week Fair, or would it be in replace of it? Or?
It would be in addition to it.
Okay, and so my next question is on that. So you say you want to work with the Liberation Committee to expand this, but you've been on the Liberation Committee this year, as you say, as the LGBT plus rep. So why haven't you already done this?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I've been focusing on sort of other aspects within my role. So so far this year, I've been working alongside Gemma to change the policy for accommodation so that trans and non-binary students can be guaranteed halls beyond first year. I've also been working with sport clubs and societies to increase awareness for issues that LGBT plus people may face. Thank you. Sorry, I'm a bit nervous. Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, so you've been on the Liberation Committee already this year. You've said all the things that you've done. So why have you not already done this if you say that you want to work with the Liberation Committee to do it?
So basically because I've only had the position for I think 2 months now. I've done a lot with it already. I've been focusing on sort of other aspects. This is just another aspect that I haven't got quite round to doing, but yeah, I'd be happy to work on it next year.
Okay, cool, thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next section, which I've entitled Magic Money Tree. So both of your manifestos are quite big shopping lists in terms of spending, in terms of things that you want to do. So obviously as VP community, you will be responsible for lots of spending, and I think it's actually the zone that has the biggest budget in total across everything. But what I want to know is specifically, you have £13,500 like every zone to spend on whatever you want throughout the year and with your zone. So I want to know, what would you spend your £13,500 on? And if you love a countdown timer, good news, because we're going to have one. So if you get the paper in front of you and the pen, and just break down for me exactly how you would spend your £13,500.
Do you need exact pound figures?
Yeah. Use that, then we can see it. Nice, I like that we're getting into it. Yeah, good. We've still got a couple more to go, so we can have some more atmosphere for the next one. Right, okay, so we've got some stuff written down. So Izzy, we'll start with you. What would you spend your £13,500 on?
Okay. I only had the chance to write down 2 of them, but 2 things I really want to do is I want to revamp the front room. At the moment, it's thank you. At the moment, it's quite it's dark in there, chairs are broken, tables are stained, and I think it's a big reason that the space isn't being utilised to its full potential. I want to rip out all the furniture, start afresh with a new modern design, and create an environment students want to hang out in, and bring more students to the Union building. I also think it would be fun to include arcade-style games in there for some entertainment. And I also know in recent times there have been occasions where the front room has been trashed with drinks and rubbish left everywhere. And I think that revamping the room will definitely make people more likely to want to respect the area and keep it tidy, as it's a place on campus that anyone can use to socialise in, and it definitely deserves a nice environment. And then the other thing I put down is I want to spend money on bringing you Univision. So do you guys know the Eurovision Song Contest? Yeah. So it's an amazing event that happens every year that really brings countries together, brings communities together, and my idea would be, and Univision is essentially music's answer to varsity. So we would invite other southern universities to elect an act to represent them. Then we'd all gather here, maybe in Rubix or Uni Hall, and we would sort of battle it out. Sort of music, hashtag Team Sorry against other universities.
Sorry, we're going to come back to Univision later, so I need to hold
okay,
that
that's
thought.
Fine.
And then we're going to move on to Tristan. So what would you spend your money on?
Gotta say, I haven't written anything down purely because obviously I'm not in the role, don't have experience of what costs may be outside of my policy ideas. So I think we'll have to look at priorities in that way, and then see what I can do there.
Cool, thank you.
I can only apologise for that.
No, I mean that's fair enough. None of you fell into to the trap. So obviously, this money is not something that you would kind of allocate all up front, because it's stuff that like your part-time zone officers and stuff would want to kind of pull from. So it's good that none of you allocated all the money. You didn't fall into the trap. Unlucky. Okay, so we're going to go to another quick fire question now. So really quick, we're not going to do a countdown timer, but just had this through and I think it's a great one. So DJ Leroy has fallen ill and he needs you to fill in. What would be your signature citrus tune? So Izzy, what would be your tune?
No doubt, Africa by Toto.
Solid, Tristan.
I would call in the expertise of Alan Sutherland.
Oh, he's going to like that downstairs. Okay, cool. Right, so that was the light-hearted bit. Let's go back to manifesto questions now. So, keeping on the theme of the magic money tree. So, Izzy, we are coming back to your Univision now. So, yeah, how on earth are you going to organise a university vision of the Eurovision Song Contest? I mean, SAB struggle at the best of times to get things done that they want to do on the manifesto. So, how are you going to get the money and resources to do this?
Sure. So I'm very experienced with events management. I study music, and as part of our degree, we do a music project every semester. And for the last 2 years, I've been on the management team organising this. It's a live music event. So I am experienced organising, big music events. It would cost, a bit of money, but I think it would definitely be worth it, because it would bring, lots of students together to celebrate, Team Surrey in a way that's not sport. So Team Surrey in the music sense. Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah. No, so that's okay. So then my next question on that was kind of how much money do you think this would cost? I mean, you mentioned you'd allocate £2,000 to it, but how much do you think it would cost in total?
Yes, so I did have a quick chat with a member of staff and stage crew, and with the resources they already have, that would make it cost quite a bit less than should we, be doing it from scratch. Should we be doing it in Rubix? That would also reduce some costs because it's a venue we already have. We could use Stag TV to live stream it. So we would be using resources that we already have, and that we have volunteers that do it very, very well. So I don't think it would be, it would be costing us thousands and thousands of pounds. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to push you just for a figure. So obviously this is one of your core manifesto ideas, so I'd expect you to kind of have a figure around it. And if you're going to push this to university management, to the union, you're going to need to know round about how much it will cost. So how much do you think it will cost, just in approximate terms?
Approximately, I'd say £2,000.
Okay, £2,000. Where would you hold it? In Rubix, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so just from looking at some other things, so I noticed we allocate, because I would think this event would be somewhere along the lines of like a free fest style thing. Like I know you said you were going to hold it on Patsfield, I think. I saw that somewhere. So yeah, free fest costs £10,000.
Yeah.
So that's kind of around that. So my cost
I did actually speak to a member of staff in the union about that, because originally my idea for Univision would be to have it outside Free Fest style, but speaking to the member of staff, they did share how expensive Free Fest is due to it being outside and all that, and it was them who suggested that maybe I should consider doing it in Rubik, so I have considered that.
Okay, cool, fair enough. Okay, so we'll move on to Tristan now. So you also have a very ambitious point on your manifesto. So you say you want to fix international tuition fees so that what you pay in your first year is the same as what you pay in your last.
Yeah.
So my first question is, do you understand inflation?
Yes, I do, yeah.
So how much do you think this will cost?
Well, it won't. What I would like the university to adopt is what called front-loaded inflationary rises. These project what the inflation will be across the duration of the course, and average it out across each year, so that what you pay is a flat fee. It doesn't cost the university any money, but what it does allow is international students who are looking to come to Surrey know that what they're advertised for their first year is what they will pay throughout their course. For example, I have here international fees for 2020 to 2021 range from £17,900 to £21,700 depending on course. and these are subject to a 4% rise, which the university says year on year. On a 3-year on a 3-year course, 21,700 in your first year leads to 23,470 in the final year. This jump can come as quite a shock to international students, and the international students that I've spoken to were either unaware or only knew of this because they've done a lot of digging. This is the fact that it's 4% rise each year isn't easy to find. The inflationary rises that would be in place would advertise it as this 2020 to 2021, for example, as 22,500 approximately. But that will be, it's slightly more than what's advertised, but that would be for year 1, year 2, and year 3.
Okay, so you think it won't cost any more because we'll make the first year price higher?
Yeah.
In essence, right, okay. So the union has actually asked the university about this before, and they said no because of that reason, because they'd have to put the first year price up, which would make Surrey look less competitive based on other universities. So what would your response be to this? Imagine you're talking to university management. Like what
I think it would be, instead of shamefully burying the 4% rise in their website, I think it would be nice if they could say, we're slightly more expensive, but the price you pay now, when you get here, you're not going to be like, I've got to pay another £2,000. I think talking to them, I would say you can advertise the fact that your international fees won't increase over the course.
Okay, fair enough. So my next question is on that. Given the university has kind of rejected this idea so far, how would you convince them to do it? And what committees do you sit on as VP Community? It is listed in the Community Zone job description that would be able to influence this decision.
Okay, so if the appetite is great enough, I think student activism, to show that there's a student desire for this to be put in place, would be where I would go. I think it's fair that prospective students should know exactly what their education is going to cost them, and the fact that they have to look down a website to find it is deeply unfair. We domestic students have the relative luxury of knowing that our education is going to cost £9,250 a year, and that if it were to increase due to government policy or whatever, that the SLC will provide us funding for that. But if you were to come here and realise that actually you've got to pay more when you're spending family money or whatever, adjusting to that can be very difficult. And I think that that's a luxury that domestic students have, luxury in inverted commas, that unfairly makes prospective international students unfairly represented here.
Cool, thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Okay, so we're going to go to a question from the floor next. So, who has a question? Oh, we're going to have to go for Pete. Hand shot straight up there. Go on. I hope this isn't a planted question, by the way.
I would never ask a planted question.
Good.
So we've had Divest Barclays mentioned by Tristan. Would both candidates be willing to support Electronics Watch and Divest Sweatshop Free, which is a People and Planet campaign to get the university to monitor its electronics supply chain to make sure no sweatshop labour is used at all? The cost will be less than €3,000, which is less than 1% of Maxlu's pay. Will you be willing to lobby the university to affiliate and the union to affiliate to this body, which will make sure no sweatshop labour is used at all in our supply chain?
Okay, thank you. So the question was, I think, would you be willing to kind of lobby the university to commit to this sweatshop thing? Yeah. Tristan. Sweatshop free. No. We'll start with Izzy, actually. Go on, Izzy.
Yes, I would. I definitely would. I think I'd also like to work closely with the activist groups on campus who have personally put a lot of research and effort into it. People and Planet and the other societies that care a lot about these issues, because they're doing some really good work, and I'd want to work with them to make sure we're lobbying the university, because it's clearly something students care about. And yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Justin?
That's a very easy question to answer. Yes, of course. This, I wasn't aware that this campaign existed. In the VP community role, I'll be working very closely with People and Planet as they're allowed to attend some sustainability meetings that we have with the university alongside Extinction Rebellion. So working with them closely, absolutely, I'll support that. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. So we're going to go on to the cut and stick round now. This is my personal favourite round. I'm very proud of this. So we're going to give you a bit of a break, do something a bit more light-hearted. So I've got some Pritt sticks here that I've prepared. So according to the role description of VP Community, which I've up here, should be coming up on the screen, there are 5 main aspects of your role. So there's community relations, entertainment, showcase events, volunteering, and campaigns. So what I would like to do, if you look to the side of you, you should see a bit of paper. So no, the one just to the end, you might have to get up, it's a bit far away from you. So you should see I've brilliantly, not that one, that's later. That one, cool. So you should see I've got the 5 different bits, you turn it over. Got 5 different bits, and what I want you to do is stick them in the order of most important to least important of the community zone role things, because obviously you're gonna have priorities of what you want to do as VP community. So I want to know what are your priorities. So I think this is we might need a bit more time than the countdown timer. So I think we have some alternative music. Yeah. Gonna give you a minute to just cook. Just stick that down. Nice bit of mindfulness in the middle of the debate. Oh, I'm loving this. Yes, get the torches out. Got about 30 seconds left, so stick away, come on. Don't want anything falling down when you hold it up. You've got about 20 seconds left. About 10 seconds, Izzy.
I can't choose.
Stick. Okay, we're done. So, Tristan, we'll start with you. So if you'd like to hold it with a bit of paper and explain why you put them in the order that you have.
Okay, so I'll start with campaigns. There was recently a priority campaigns thing that went about. Sustainability was massively the favourite campaign to run. So that's a large aspect of my manifesto. So obviously I have to put this there. Volunteering, again, I think is something which is a key part of the zone and university life, whether it's through societies and clubs or directly through the union or doing it in your own time. Nightline, for example, or completely unrelated to university life. So that's very important. Showcase and events, this is where we display sort of our inclusivity and our diversity on campus and all the different groups that we have here. So that's a huge aspect of what we are doing, and it's massively important. Entertainment, Rubix, DJ Leroy, etc., as well as events like Free Fest and things. So that's, again, important. And community relations, I've put last, not because I don't think it's important, just because you thought I ranked them, and I like all of these.
Okay, thank you. Izzy?
So I actually put entertainment first. We have thousands of students who attend Rubix every week. It's a really big part of student life for a lot of people. So I put entertainment first for that reason. I put community relations next. This is something that I've experienced more of in the past year. With PetSoc, we do dog walking. We volunteer walking local dogs. And this has really helped to improve the perception of students among Guildford residents. And that's sort of something I'd want to continue doing as VP community. Showcase events, again, it's great to sort of showcase the different communities we have here on campus. Then I've put campaigns, and I think it's really important, so I hate that I've put it last, but I've put volunteering last, I'm afraid.
Okay, so that's different, which is good, because obviously this is a choice between two candidates, and also Ron, of course. So if you don't like any of the candidates, you can vote Ron, which is none of the above. But yeah, it's interesting that in your manifestos, I noticed none of you mentioned anything to do with community relations in your manifesto. So obviously this is one of the 5 key points of being VP community, and it's something that's mentioned quite a lot in the zone debate earlier. So what I'd like to ask you now is, let's test your knowledge of the local community. So this is something I think Councillor Steele is going to absolutely love, and I think we do have blank maps in the audience as well. So if you want to play along, and if you want to play it along at home, it will come up on the screen. So I'd like you to, if you get the other bit of A3 over there.
Oh, where did I put that?
Yeah. I'd like you to get the marker and name the 11 council wards surrounding the university. And this did come up 2 years ago, so if you've done your research, you should do well on this. And we'll have the countdown timer, please. Let's have some enthusiasm. Okay, thank you. James, could you know all of those? Excellent, good. So, do our candidates know, indeed, any of them? So, Tristan, we'll start with you. Which ones did you get?
I don't know where they are, but I can name a few. I've got to apologise to James. We worked together campaigning in the recent general election, and I've let him down with my forgetfulness. So I've got Stoughton and Stoke, Onslow, Friary and something, I can't remember the
cool, yeah, so
that
Friary and St Nicholas, you've got them all in the wrong place, but at least you do have some of the right names. We get the answers up on the screen as well, we can see that. Okay, we're going to move on. Izzy, what did you write
Yeah,
down?
similarly, my geography is not good. I couldn't tell you where they are, but I got Stoughton, Stoke, Onslow, I think Merrow is one. I think there's one called Purbeck, and I think there's one called Holy Trinity.
Did you get them in the right place?
No.
You've got 2 in the right place, so that's better than Tristan. And we haven't got the answers up on the screen, so I don't know what's going on downstairs. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So those are the answers. So yeah, obviously there's Onslow, which is the one that we're in now. Then there's Westborough, Stoughton, Stoke, Christchurch, Friary and St Nicholas. The St Nicholas is the bit. Shalford, Holy Trinity, Merrow, Burpham, and Worplesdon. So cool. And so that was the light-hearted bit now. So we're going to now go back to manifesto questions. So, Tristan, we'll start with you. So, one of the points that you have again on your manifesto, same as last year, is to expand lifestyle choice accommodation to include kosher and halal options. So, at the moment, there is lifestyle choice accommodation. Students can choose quiet, same-sex, and alcohol-free accommodation. So, do you think that adding kosher and halal options would take the idea too far, and would it lead to segregating students based on their religious beliefs? And we need this a bit quicker now.
Yeah, no, in terms of segregation, obviously not. That's ridiculous. It's totally optional. It's just putting people in a situation where they're more comfortable and can call campus their home. I think demand may not be very high, but I don't care if it's just for one flat of people. If one flat of people feel more comfortable in that situation, then so be it. They should be allowed to feel as comfortable as possible on campus. Is that quick enough?
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's a fair point. But I mean, I don't know about other people, but I think one of the best things I had about living in first year was, mixing with people of different beliefs, different cultures, different ideas. So do you not think that this would kind of deprive other people of the chance to learn about other cultures?
Not at all. I
ideas?
think you don't just talk to the people in your flat. You talk to people above you, below you, clubs and societies on your course. So there are many other ways to meet people of different backgrounds to you, and this is not going to stop that at all.
Okay, fair enough. Nice and quick. I like it. That's good.
Right.
Good. You've clearly done this before. So, my next question on that is: so where do you draw the line with this lifestyle choice accommodation? So, should we be able to choose to live with a flat with only vegans, for example? Where is the line with this?
Funnily enough, I think that was been brought up in the exec, but for now, I'll stick to this. If there's student demand, then why not? But for now, my
Okay,
manifesto
so you would be prepared to expand it if.
Yeah, if students thought that they would be more comfortable in accommodation that was exclusively vegan or vegetarian. I understand it with sort of cross-contamination in kitchens. That's fair enough. So.
Okay, thank you. So, Izzy, we're going to move on to you. Round of applause, yeah, thank you. Okay, so you want to improve the misuse of drugs policy to support students more and punish them less. So do you know, my question is to you, do you know which law means the university actually, why do they have this policy? What's the law that means that they have to have this policy? Can you name it for me?
I can't name it for you, I'm afraid.
Okay, so if we could get it up on the screen, it is actually the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971, Section 8. So this is actually in the appendix of the misuse of drugs policy on the university website that you want to change. So, I mean, I would expect you to know that, but moving beyond that point, how would you convince the university to change the policy if, given that they've got this legal obligation?
Yeah, so I have read through the whole thing. Unfortunately, I forgot about that. It's quite a big policy, so naturally, some things I'm going to miss out on. I'm so sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, so how would you convince... So the university's obviously got this legal obligation to not make itself look like it's encouraging drug use on campus. So how would you convince them to change their policy on drugs to make it more lenient?
Sure. So the drugs policy...
And we need this to be quick. So.
Sure. The drugs policy exists to keep students safe. However, the current policy focuses too much on punishing and fining students and not enough on educating and supporting them if they have a problem with drugs. For example, the current policy stands that should a student be caught with a Class C drug, such as marijuana, they would receive a final warning for an Oscar disciplinary, as well as a £100 fine. I agree totally with the final warning. However, the £100 fine isn't going to help students in any way, and if anything, it will put them in an even more vulnerable situation than they were already in. I want to change this so that a student caught with a Class C drug will instead have to attend a formal meeting with a warden to discuss what led to this drug use, and from this, the student could be referred to a drug service if necessary. I think the university is in denial about the amount of drug use that happens here at Surrey, and so often it's not recreational, but it's an attempt to deal with the symptoms of mental illness, and it's definitely an area that we should be doing more in to support students.
Okay, thank you. So on that point, so just quickly, so obviously if you're trying to convince the university about this, a good idea might be to look at other universities that have done a similar thing. So can you tell me any other universities that have done similar thing with their misuse of drugs policy?
So the University of Portsmouth have their union lobbied a couple of years ago to make their policy a bit more lenient in terms of fines and punishing, and they got it to sort of focus more on having proper formal serious meetings with students rather than fining them. And from what I've gathered, from what I've read on their website, it seems to have made a good impact, and students who are using drugs were able to get sort of support for that, and it seemed to be much more effective than just fining them.
Thank you. Okay, so that's the end of the manifesto questions. So quickly before we go, so obviously there's only two of you, as I said. Pedants, you're going to say there's Ron, okay, but there's only two of you. So what I want to ask is, what makes you better than the other person? Because crucially, this is what it does come down to. So Tristan, we'll start with you. What makes you better than Izzy?
I would say my manifesto focuses on long-term solutions and ideas that will still be in place long after we all graduate, I hope. Sustainability Chair is going to keep pushing for sustainability when we're crafting motions and policies at the union and taking that to the university. Social and inclusive campus, allowing students to feel as at home as possible here on campus, and I would love that to continue. And then international fees, this is something that I would love to see permanent, and it would also open the door to discuss the fairness of international fees with the university in the future. Obviously, the financial situation of the university is such that you can't really talk about reducing incomes.
We're going to have to...
Okay. If their financial situation improves, this could be discussed, but right now I think this offers a good compromise.
Cool, thank you. Izzy, right, so why are you better than Tristan? I need it quick because I've been told 3 times to hurry up. So.
I can't say anything negative about Tristan. I think he's a lovely guy, and
You too.
and if I don't win, I think he'd be a lovely VP community. However, I think I have the passion, I have the breadth of experience, having been on a variety of societies across communities, across various things. Sorry, what was the question?
So what makes you better than Tristan? Quickly, like in a few words, what are your main points that are different to Tristan's?
My ideas are going to affect the whole student community. People who are from smaller communities, but also the student body as a whole. I've got so much passion for these pledges, and I promise I'll do a really good job.
Cool, thank you. So we've got one more left. I wasn't going to do this, but I feel like we have to. Very, very quickly, one word. You should have prepared for this. Who'd you pick for Prez? Tristan, Izzy. Who's your pick for president?
I mean, Sonic's a pretty good candidate.
Okay, we're gonna go right. Cool. We've gone with the cop-out answer. Anyway, okay, cool. So that's the end of it today. So thank you all for being here. What?
Oh,
yeah,
did you not hear?
Yeah,
no,
I said Lizzie.
I said Lizzie.
You said Lizzie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't know that wasn't visible. I could hear him, probably because he's right next to me. Cool, so we'll go to the end. So that's it now. So thank you all for being here. Thanks all for sticking around. We've still got 2 more nights to go, so I want to see everyone back here tomorrow. We're not going to go down to Alan now because he's gone. He must have got too excited with your... he's gone to do a DJ set. So just to tell you that you can find all the manifestos for the positions on usssu.co.uk. Voting opens after the President's debate on Tuesday until 6 p.m. on Saturday, also via the union website, or you will all get an email as well, as I'm sure you know. And tune in tomorrow for the candidates for it's Activity Day. So we've got Activity Zone, Society's Chair, Team Surrey Chair, and VP Activity. Thank you.